like that, we back with another Unpack. This is the To Be Fair show with
the G Shit Podcast.
Bring you another good one. This week we'll be talking about the generational divide. Should we blame the previous generations for society today? But before we do that, I am your favorite fence-sitting moderator with the illustrious panel. I'd love for y'all to introduce yourselves for us real quick. Starting with the top, talk to them.
What's good, everybody? It's G, host of the G Shit Podcast, where we focus on family, friends, finances, freedom, and our future, and fuck everything else. Check that out wherever you get your podcast at GSHPOD. Ha!
Johnny.
What up? It's your boy Johnny P, host of the To Be Fair show. You can catch us every Sunday, 4:30 p.m. I'm very excited for this one. A lot of stuff just happened, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Gotcha. The Charlotte legend himself, talk to him.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
What up, everybody? A Black here. Happy to be a part of the conversation tonight and talk about everything we got to talk about. So good to be here.
Last but not least, FBA Zone. Talk to him.
What's good? Salute. It's Trey, aka FBA Trey, aka David Walker. I'm just doing my best to be a good advocate for the FBA lineage. And shout out to your Jason Blacks, your Professor Black Truth, your Black Alpha Network, everyone that articulates our talking points way better than I do. Check them out. And shout out to the host. Looking forward to a good conversation.
Gotcha. Hey Trey, when you get the chance, turn your mic up some. But nonetheless, y'all know we like to do the icebreakers. And what better way to break the ice? What is that? I don't even know what Super Bowl it is, but your halftime performer he dropped today. Released the record via his Instagram. Has everybody heard it?
Oh, yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts? Initial thoughts?
I think Trey had a question though.
First off, man, that whole song was so hard, but apparently they said there's a line that they think I might have a problem with, but I think I'm misunderstood.
G, you muted, G.
He was, Kendrick made a comment about how black women was stronger than men, black men out here in the streets, and I thought you might take offense to something like that.
He said something.
Something
fair
to that
representation
effect.
with some. Yes, some of these females is harder than a lot of these N-words.
Oh, word. Well, to respond to that, I always say I don't blame the women for, how they move. I blame I wasn't about to say y'all, but I blame the simp Negroes who are just coddle this behavior. They don't speak up. They just allow this, they don't take the leadership. And if you leave a void because you want to be soft and everything like that, then that's what's going to happen. And I also think a lot of that stuff stems from our condition in America, because I think black men we're seen as a threat. So they go out of their way to lift up our women, because the last thing they want to do is talk to the warrior class. And a lot of men, we feed into that energy, and then we just see like, oh, want to get behind the black woman, the strong black woman, like that type of stuff. But no, we need to be strong for our women so they don't have to be strong. But, I hear a lot of, feminist mentality sometimes, with all due respect, on this podcast. So I can't blame the women for, following the leadership of the men who want them to be the warrior class. So it's y'all fault, not theirs.
He done started early, put the little battery in his back. But nonetheless, like I my first reaction to it was the fact that, to me, this was like a slow walk. When like the big homie, they take you around the corner and just put the show arm around you. And to me, this was like listening to the Joker / Thanos explain to you why they wanted to see the world burn, or why Thanos wanted to snap his fingers. I thought it was great.
I like the analogy. I would say for me, I see it as like a clear warning shot. I see it more as like when Mufasa was talking to Simba about the dark place, like you can't go there. And like Kendrick is like, I want to see what really comes of this, because he's like calling, like saying like, look, don't even go here because we about to do something crazy. Like, this is a warning. Like, you either with it or you against it. And this right here is a clear warning shot to me, to everybody, to stay out if you don't belong here.
Can I ask maybe a dumb question? He said, what would Lecrae do? This is a warning shot towards like Nicki and them, right?
Yeah, this had his then. I think right after that, he was talking about, should I pray or should I do XYZ? He did the same thing with D1. I think D1's another Christian rapper. He said, what would D1 do? I would. And then he had left that little blank space. Yeah. I don't think it was a shot at Lecrae or D1 as much as it's saying like, should I take the higher route or be ignorant with my black?
Did you say a shot at Nicki?
Or like Nicki came and was talking shit yesterday. I know Wayne, like on behalf of Wayne, about
the whole Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. But they was talking shit about Hove, I thought.
That's why
it all get lumped together.
I'm trying to clarify like who this is.
Damn,
like,
I ain't think about it. I guess this would be the line in the sand, like, hey, y'all niggas sound a little too comfortable talking on me right now. I ain't really think about it.
Like, all y'all Lucian Grain employees need to get in order here.
Hey, that boy, that boy Kendrick, leave that man alone. He put them black forces on there for a reason.
Bro, it's a great follow-up to Not Like Us, because at first he called out Drake, now he's just going. And then also, man, Kendrick is deep, and you can tell he's a reader. He's very aware of like our black movements. Even like he has a song talking about I'm an Israelite. So if you're getting a lot of their mentalities, a lot of stuff that we have going on, he kind of speaks. Like there's a time when even scripturally, and it even feeds into this topic very well, because it talks about how a lot of our elders are kind of indoctrinated into the ways that are not good for us. And then we have to eventually shed a lot of these destructive mentalities and these mindsets that are holding us back. So he seemed like he's like on a crusade for his people. And it started with, checking Drake, and now he's checking these other people too. So,
hey, Black, talk to us.
Yeah, man, I'm just really amazed at his ability, his timing to just make people listen. Like in this age of like overconsumption, so much content. Like, the first thing G said was, "I gotta run this back," because it's like he make you want to like hear what he's talking about. It's not like easily digestible shit. So, he's maintained a real mystique and allure about himself as an artist that, like, whether you like him or not, you stop and listen to see what he has to say, because he's like put more value to his voice. Like, he's done no interviews since he's done the diss. Like, he did that shit very meticulously. And he disappeared. He pop out. The Super Bowl, when he do come out, it's something big every time. Comes out back out, Super Bowl announcement, like, well, one liner there, dissing Drake with the whole "ain't no second round" type shit, and then to see that Drake dropped all that music, 100 gigs, 200 gigs, and like, I don't know about y'all, and I try to listen to it, but like,
he had some joints. He had a couple joints on
there.
there.
He got some bops. He always got some little, bob your head joints too. But I'm just like, I don't know, something ain't really sticking for me. Like, it ain't a lot of shit I want to really go back and listen to it. But all that music and content he dropped, and this dude do one song and it just stopping.
Yeah, I also think that I've heard the culture vulture conversation even more with Drake after the 100 gigs.
Yeah,
where it was showing like a lot of like like old footage where he'll walk in the booth, sound one way, walk out the booth, sound a completely different way. Even when he was getting introduced to like some Atlanta rappers, just the way he would talk about them. He had a couple, unintentional viral moments that happened where even in him doing that, some of like that culture vulture-esque, thing was still there.
Why do you think it is that we're so reluctant to accept? Like, we see all the evidence, we see him changing his voice, we saw him using the N-word with a hard ER, we know he's not from our lineage, we know he raps, he's a pop star, and he doesn't have any substance, yet we turn a blind eye to all of that and just give him a pass. Like,
I'm not gonna hate on the artists using different voices. Like, I mean, you're a vocal artist at the end of the day. Like, you might, like Kendrick got hella different voices that he used. No, like it's.
I think he's speaking more about like the appropriation piece. But I guess what I would say is that,
like culturally,
like I don't think that
his dad is from Memphis.
Like we not the ones that control that at all. Like he has too big of a female delegation to where, and that's where like Kendrick was smart in my opinion, where he found the way to kind of like turn that a little bit. But like it's never been like this hyper amount of men that just fucked with Drake.
But y'all are defending him right now. Like he has a straight up.
Who's defending him? I don't think.
Like he has a black scent. You're like, well, Kendrick has voices too. Like this dude.
Oh,
Kendrick his voice, his rapper voice is not like, he sounds like a dude where he's from, but Drake puts on an accent to sound Americanized and just like to try to sound like us to rap to us. Like that's not how he talks to his mom. Like Kendrick talks to his mother and all these other people the same way. It's not like an act. Drake is an actor.
Yeah, Drake definitely is like
he say you can't be fair.
I don't disagree. He's a chameleon. I don't disagree that he's a chameleon. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
It's the gangster shit for me. It's like be an actor, be a chameleon. Show your range of like, I can do all these styles. That's dope. Sing and shit. But then it's like, all right, then when you get in the culture and you perpetuate negative things in that culture, and you're not a part of it, and you emulating that. It gets weird, like, bro, you're not gangster. Why are you talking about gang shit, mob shit, and all this stuff? Like, because people are really going through this in these hoods out here, and you giving them the soundtrack, and you don't even live that life. You're not even that type dude, So just do the fun shit, the pop shit, the singing shit, get fly top pop shit, but don't. Why you popping colors?
You don't have to talk about mob ties.
Exactly.
Hey,
yeah,
Johnny, I'll say this: if we just, dump it on Drake, the part where I was done was like and this is everybody, because like there's black, like the stuff we're talking about, black people, this white people, like there's black people that like act like they're from the hood. So like I can't get mad at Drake for that. The one thing that for me where I have to stop supporting is the A minor claims. And like we can go back and see the chick where she's like 17 and he's on stage like no, and then like we see him texting, the chick. To me, like that's the undefendable. Like there's like the other stuff that we're talking about, acting like you from the hood, changing you stuff. Like it's black people that do that. Like we can't do. But that right there, that's where it's like undefendable, and like you can't even you can't defend it. It's like,
but they defend R. Kelly.
Trey, what you got to say about that?
I wouldn't say that defending R. Kelly and separating artists from his music is something totally different, because if you take away all the songs that R. Kelly wrote, then that's like half of the 90s music that you love.
You can't take away Drake's catalog and say like the 2000, like there's a stat that they talked about how he's the most streamed out of like ever. You can combine generations of music. Drake's music is more streamed than all of them combined.
There is a big difference. R. Kelly's in jail and Drake is not. Like R. Kelly, like whatever he did, like the thing.
But Johnny, people defend R. Kelly. People defend that man.
The music, nobody defends the action. The music is the music.
Oh,
what would you say, Trey?
I said, if he's in jail, then how many people really defend him? You make it seem like he's out here free, and even
he's in jail.
And also on top of that,
did you stop listening to his music? Did you
not
stop
enough people
defend
music? R. Kelly? Is that what you were saying?
No, not enough people defend R. Kelly. I stand by that, because I hate the fact that it's only the black. Only the black artists get held accountable. Because if you look at these Ozzy Osbournes, all these rock stars, they rally behind them and defend them. And then when it's time to like hold people accountable for Me Too, it's only the black artists. Like even Michael Jackson, there was no evidence of him doing any of those things they said he did, but he was proven innocent in court, and he's still guilty. Same with O.J. Simpson. So it's just really disgusting how black people, when our people are their necks on the line, we don't defend them. We just believe whatever they say about them in the corporate media. But when other groups of people, they defend their people, and this is very off-road behavior. So yeah, we need to do a better job defending R. Kelly. It also
so in general, you believe that he didn't do it, and that's why we should defend him, not the fact that he did it.
Do what?
And
he abused minor women who are underage,
Kendrick.
a pedophile.
You talking about what, in the 90s that tape that he was?
I'm talking about whenever it happened multiple times from multiple.
Kendrick.
Like,
bro, half of those women were grown, bro.
All right, so all right, so
I'm talking about.
I'm just saying, look at the hypocrisy. I just want to point out the hypocrisy there. It's like, okay, we want to tear down one artist for allegedly working with or being attracted to quote unquote younger people, but now one who's in jail for fucking with younger people. There's like an argument being made as to why it should be ignored. I'm just saying that piece don't really add up to me.
But who's the hypocrite? Me or the people who actually punished R. Kelly and didn't punish Drake? And I think Drake has covered because of his cultural connections.
Was Kells not the biggest, if not GOAT of his craft? Like at the top, like was he not like at the peak, the pinnacle of his craft? Like, is he not one of them? Like
my point,
GOAT of catalogs?
My point is that I'm sick of FBAs being the only ones to get punished. At the end of the day, that's my point. And if Drake gets protection because of his cultural connections and things like that, then I don't think that's right. And I'm not saying what R. Kelly did is right, but at the same time, I don't want to be the only one that gets punished constantly. You got to like defend against that, bro.
Gotcha. So it's not that he shouldn't be punished; it's that more other groups should be punished.
Yes, and the opposite.
Okay.
If we're not going to punish everyone, then don't punish R. Kelly. We can't have it both ways.
Gotcha. And you feel like that about all suspected possible. Never mind.
Don't do it.
Let's get into
the next topic. Bro, we got 2 hours.
You said what?
Yeah. If you just want to only punish FBAs, just say that. If you're okay with FBAs being the only ones that get punished, then just say that, bro.
No, I think that
you try to call me out because I'm trying to stand up for my people when nobody else will.
But why like no. is that the time to stand up for your people on this particular hill? Like,
yes, if we're the only people being punished, then yes, that's not fair, bro. I'm not gonna let my people.
So we should condone. But it's almost like we're like, because we're the only ones getting punished, we should excuse the behavior.
Bro, yes. And I'm gonna say excuse it, but at the same time, what's the bigger picture is that it's an injustice for us to be singled out. And if we allow them to consistently single us out, then that's gonna bleed onto other people, not just us.
And is it not an injustice for older men to prey on younger women in our community?
Yes, it is an injustice.
And for those women not to get justice.
Bro,
if that's supposedly happening.
Of course, it's an injustice, but at the end of the day, the bigger picture is the same judicial system that singles out that black man will single out you too. If we just stand by. So my point is the bigger picture, how it affects me individually, and us as a collective. And if the justice system, if we can't get justice and everyone else does, that's the bigger picture that I'm focused on.
You muted, Q? Q, you muted. All right, bet. So, all right, so what was the next joint? We was talking about the going into the debate. So first off, did everybody check out the debate last night?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm just curious, but before we get into it, right? Before we get into it, just let's go around, like, who won? Like, just if you had to pick a winner of last night, who won last night's debate? Johnny, let's start with you. Okay.
Check. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right,
Johnny about froze in a motherfucker. So Johnny, you wait right there with that thought.
Hey, so G, let me play these 2 clips while we get Johnny back in service.
Okay, bet.
Really quickly.
That nigga thinking hard. Pause.
Towns all over the United States, and a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason to our country, and look at what's.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot be president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with millions.
Yeah. So nonetheless, I think G gave a quick, question, for the panel. Obviously, it sounds like everybody kind of watched some of the debate. What is y'all feelings? What is y'all takeaways? Do you have a definitive winner inside your eyes from the debate?
Yeah, before we get into it, can we hear who everybody thought won? Like you, who'd you think won?
Won.
Who won last night?
I'd probably say Kamala won, I guess. Just off of the fact that I think Trump had the biggest, like, quote unquote, faux pas, whether it was correct. Well, it was a misspeak no matter what. The whole the clip that we just played, that was the most viral little piece. I think Kamala didn't have like the big slip up, quote unquote. I think they both, and this is why I said, like, if I have to choose, to me, I think it was like both of them leave off being able to say what they need to say and do what they need to do. Where in listening to it, I always get annoyed at the fact that neither one of them answers the actual prompted question.
Right.
And typically the conversation is full of both of them misrepresenting the other person's opinion instead of actually giving their opinion and spelling out like exactly how their policy is going to work, what it's going to do, who's going to impact XYZ. It just ends up being like this. I don't know, like a finger pointing contest in which who ends up having the best zinger instead of an actual policy debate that we can judge who has the better, platform to run on.
Word.
Yeah, I think all Trump really had to do was like not really fuck up too much. Like, Trump go Trump, but I feel like it's a win for him because he didn't say nothing that's like very shocking past the comedic shit, the pets eating, people laughing. It was like almost entertainment, which I think comes off as a win for Trump. People don't come off like super afraid or super like we really got to mobilize. Like, it's a joke to folks, which is why I think he gonna still have a chance because a lot of people think she really has it in the bag. She kind of seems real disingenuous, like she just playing up the fear of like, this dude come in again, like this, that, and third go happen, like, but she still ain't really. It's not a real takeaways of people like, oh, we got to over Kamala because we know she about to do this for us. Like she said, like people not really talking about like what is she really about to do that's different. She's literally the vice president right now. She can do like a lot of shit. She's probably the president right now because I don't know where the fuck Joe at. He probably didn't even watch this shit.
Did you hear what Trump said on the debate when he was like, you go get him out the bed and get him to sign his bill? That shit.
Yeah. I guess I would say, A Black, there was a part that I did think was kind of like a faux pas when I sit and think about it for Trump, where I think that they actually had like a portion where they was trying to push on like actual what policies are you going to implement? I can't remember what topic it was on, but Trump ended up like his whole answer was, I'm not president yet. I have concepts of a plan. I don't have a full plan yet. And I was like that's kind of like is that what it was? Yeah, it was healthcare. Like, do you actually have like a plan for what you would like to do? You speak about how bad Obamacare is or affordable healthcare. What would you actually want to do? And his answer was that if I can't do anything, I'm gonna keep it the same, but I have concepts of a plan. And I was like, that just sounds kind of like a bunch of nothing. Like if I'm being fair.
I don't think that's very fair at all. Healthcare is very complicated in a capitalistic system like we have now, like a for-profit.
For sure, but shouldn't you have a plan of some sort, or you just need concepts of a plan?
I think on the debate stage, and like a quick answer, I don't think you're supposed to have Right now,
Why wouldn't you? Like this is what you're like. It's only like 5 or 6 sectors that you should really be thinking about. Healthcare definitely will be one of them.
I think I'm more right now. The priority for me is, this immigration policy, the economy, and if he has a plan for that, then I'm not gonna need him to figure out, because even Obama, it took him a very long time to negotiate to figure out the healthcare plan that we have now.
I know, but he came in with a plan of what he wanted to do, though. He wanted he campaigned on like the free healthcare, right?
I got you. It seemed like that. I'm not really pressed on him having a plan to revamp the healthcare system. My priority is the economy, so I'm not. It's an odd hill to die on. Respect. You muted, G?
So who do you feel like won last night?
Man, I think we all lost. They lost. Trump lost.
You can't pick a winner between the two candidates. Who had the best performance? Who had the best performance?
No, because I do think Kamala overperformed.
Who helped themselves the most last night?
I mean, I think it was a 3-on-1 battle, like Trump against Kamala.
That's definitely true. I agree.
I agree, but just answer the question first. Who helped themselves the most last night?
You know what, Trey? He don't want to say it. You backing him in the corner right now.
I agree with his point, but I just want to know who helped themselves the most last night.
I don't think anybody who changed their opinion based on this debate.
So it's flat. Nobody helped themselves yesterday. Neither party.
No independent was swayed one way or another based on that debate. And I think Trump's closing remark was pretty powerful. And then I think all Kamala had to do was not cackle and say some policy. That's all she had to do, and she did that. And all Trump had to do was call Kamala out on some of the things she was doing, and he failed to do that. So
you said he failed to do that?
Like there were so many things that he could have brought up that he didn't. Like when she called him disgraceful or something like that, he could have brought up her past or how she got up to be in the White House. You know a lot of that Willie Brown stuff with the married man and stuff like that.
You think that would have helped him if he did that?
if you called him disgraceful, and then you be like, oh, disgraceful, and then people need. I mean, that's if you come up as a 20-something-year-old girl dating a 60-year-old man, and then you get your jobs that way, that's not good, bro. And then if you're married to a man that got the babysitter pregnant or something, had to have an abortion or something, I don't know, something weird like that. Like that's not becoming of a person who, she can't call Trump anything with all that going on. So I mean, I think when she went low, he should have got low too. I think Trump was trying to not do that because he knows how people perceive him. So he kind of held himself back where he should have just been himself versus Kamala, who kind of over prepared. Where I don't know, it seemed like she might have.
It's starting to sound more and more like you think Kamala won and Trump underperformed.
I wouldn't say she won, but again, because she didn't really say anything that was if she doubled down on abortion, people that want abortion were,
I hated that topic only because both of them didn't answer the question directly. She did a bad job. She obfuscated and she redirected to Trump, and Trump did the exact same thing.
Trump shot himself in the foot.
You said what?
He shot himself in the foot talking about
the after
9 months being born, killing the babies. It's
stupid. I mean, bro, it sounds outlandish, but they did push a bill. The Democratic side pushed a bill saying that you could have an abortion up until the end of the 3rd trimester. I have the soundbite of the woman actually saying that. So end of the 3rd trimester is the baby is fully developed and ready to go. And
right, but there is a big caveat to that. Those are the medically induced abortions, which are specifically usually when a woman has a miscarriage inside those during that point in time, in which it's between the life of the mother and the kid that they're choosing from.
And Trump said they was executing babies after they were born.
He said after also.
Yo, you gotta admit, this nigga will say he a wild boy, man.
But Kamala also dodged the question of is she for late term abortions and shit like that. Just to be fair, like
she dodged
they
all
both
questions, frankly.
Yeah,
all questions.
And then it's not even a fair thing because they second everything. Every time Trump had an answer to that, they would double down and ask him follow-up questions. And like we said, yes or no. And then Kamala, she was able to skirt the questions and get away with it. So it's hard for me to say she won when it's like I guess the Patriots won the Super Bowl when they had a Spygate, but they won. I guess the Astros won when they were, I guess what Mark McGwire won when he was taking steroids. I mean, like
Astros.
You saying that she won, but she was on steroids. I got you, bro.
No, they was beating on that. They was beating on that trash can.
Johnny, what's your thoughts?
I mean,
you didn't watch it?
No, I did. I tried to watch it. I definitely was. It was on. There was a couple. It was on. It was a couple parts where they just kind of lost me because it's like how this like helping us as Americans. Like how I was watching these two idiots up here just like talk about pets and but who's eating the pets and stuff. Like, what does that have to do with like making my life better as an American? Like inflate. Like there's a lot of things.
The bad thing is that Trump, if he actually had the facts right, would have had a really good point with the Springfield whole little thing that he was talking about and how the migrants have become like 20% of the population, but like it's the Springfield, Ohio situation is bad. He just misquoted like what was actually happening, in which they are like, I guess. Go ahead.
I will say this though. Hold up, Trey. I will say this though. I think I think Kamala did better showing like her competency and like the regalness of like leadership. But when it comes to like actual like policies and things that I will do that will work, things that you haven't done that haven't worked, things that you've done that haven't worked, I think Trump, there were some parts where he was a little more effective. And I think it's like the same criticisms I have of Kamala about like policy.
What would be one of those I guess policies or things that you would say?
Well, I guess when they were talking about like the tariffs and like when Trump was talking like this is what I did, this is what actually happened, and I think Kamala was like, well, if you're doing this, I forgot exactly how it went, but to me, like having listened to it, I felt like Trump was a little more concrete in plan A. This is what's going to happen. This is what I expect, and just experience. He's been president before. Where I think Kamala, her having been there for 3 years, she still didn't tell me what she's done or what kind of plans she has to make things any better other than just he's the boogeyman and just pointing fingers and pointing out character flaws.
And G, as you are the resident econ major, I think, or graduate, I want to say.
I did. I studied econ, top specialist.
And then of course we're gonna love to hear you like who you think won or not. But with doubling the tariffs or implementing the tariffs inside the way that he's saying, I've heard that would naturally drive up the price of goods and inflation. True, false? I don't got a degree in it.
Yeah, so there is an argument to be made that when you increase the cost of production, which a tariff ultimately does, it increases the cost of getting it from the maker to the consumer is going to pay that price due to the increase. So that is a fair argument. However, the perfect storm of events with COVID and supply chains and how they were ruined across the board, like it's really tough to say that the tariffs led to the inflation when there's a more clear direct line to.
And I guess I wasn't saying that they lead to the current inflation as much as would it drive up inflation more.
But it all goes together because gotcha. Towards the end of his term, then COVID hit. So like his tariff effects, technically we would start feeling that now towards the end of the thing. But in the midst of that, like that's the thing about monetary policy is that it's going to take a couple, like we've been working on inflation for damn near 2 years now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to take like a while for things to swing back. So you can't really isolate. We'll never know. But it is a fair, it's a fair statement that when you increase the cost of doing business, the consumers are the ones who are going to pay that price. It's not an unfair thing to say.
Go ahead.
So with the tariffs, you do realize that with our trade agreements, manufacturers can push their jobs overseas, and then those manufacturing jobs go there, and they can sell them over here for cheaper. But so what the tariffs will do is it'll get around that, and it'll make it more advantageous for companies to hire people in America. That's the whole point.
Because tariffs, tariffs don't necessarily incentivize you being like vertically integrated and embracing those costs, because at the end of the day, that's why we're in a global economy. To get the cheapest, to make the most profit, you need the cheapest labor, because your biggest cost of a business is your payroll, period. So if you want to have the most profitable business, you will have operations in these quote unquote developing countries where you can pay them a fraction of what you would pay here in America. And all of the companies that we consider multinationals, like all the top dogs, that's a part of their business model.
But if you have tariffs that charge fees on them importing those finished goods back into America, that would cut into that profit gain that would have from manufacturing overseas, and it would also incentivize people to hire.
It won't necessarily cut into the profit gain, because they'll just raise the price of the goods.
Yeah,
like that.
They can't do that because at some point,
but they have done that. Like,
but at the same time, like Trump also said during the debate, why have they kept those tariffs in place, the majority of them?
Because the government gets to make a lot of money, and they don't care about us, the consumers. See, so
yeah, I mean, inflation is up also. So the
government benefits from those tariffs because they collect those funds. But when they collect those funds and then the goods end up on the shelves, that additional costs will impact like the price of milk. If you live in a certain state where milk don't have to travel far, you don't have to pay that much. But if you live in Alaska, the cost of milk is way higher. It's just what it is. It's like it's a mixture of things that dictate price. It's not just one single thing. But a tariff won't deter a multinational organization from building a quote unquote sweatshop in Vietnam.
So just to get this straight, you're in favor of them exporting these manufacturing jobs?
I'm not in favor. I'm just saying this is what it is.
And then also you said if they're going to pass on the fees to the consumer, but at the end of the day, the separation between the rich and poor is at an all-time high. So it's not like it doesn't have to go to the consumer. These CEOs don't have to be like, the regular wages are not accelerating anywhere as high as the rates of the CEOs. So it's not like we have to transfer the profits to the consumers, because we can just
no, it's not a have. That's what businesses are going to do to protect their margins and their bottom line. It's not a have to. If you're a business, at the end of the day, like, that's a whole separate argument what CEOs get paid and all that. At the end of the day, if you was the CEO of a company that made hundreds of billions of dollars a year, you would want to get paid handsomely, period.
What I'm saying is, if they raise the prices, you're saying it'll go to the consumer. Let's say the consumers don't buy it. The CEO is going to have to lower the price. If they don't buy it. But they're not going to buy a lot of these items if they're unaffordable.
We'll see. Nike's struggling right now. Like, there are a couple of companies struggling right now, but not all goods. Like no matter how expensive gas is, when gas hits an all-time high, Exxon reports all-time earnings. Why is that? It is so why is it that they can raise the price on gas, for example, because of supply, demand and stuff, but then at the same time they hit an all-time record earnings because they inflated the price on gas? It's not because they got it for cheaper. It's like, it's supply and demand, bro. The organizations, businesses, it's capitalism. They are going to try and take as much money as a consumer is willing to pay.
I don't disagree with that, but what I'm saying is, I think you're overestimating how much the consumer is willing to pay, because that's how I remember this part in economics. when things get more expensive, people start to get the cheaper version of things.
But there are things called inelastic versus elastic goods. Depending on the type of good it is, it don't matter how much it costs. You still need it. You're going to pay for it. Like medicine, for example. If you're sick, it don't matter that healthcare raised the prices, that medicine's so expensive, you still are trying to pay for that. You're not deterred from paying a high price for certain goods. So every good isn't in the same basket.
That's an extreme example because I'm talking about like cars. So,
but what about groceries? What about bread, milk, cheese, eggs?
That's not being manufactured overseas. I'm talking vegetables about being manufactured overseas.
Okay, but what you're saying as it relates to like specifically cars is one market, and yes,
I'm talking about everything manufactured overseas, like things that are manufactured. Like my whole point.
You don't think you think all of our food is from the United States? You don't think some of these tomatoes, avocado, you don't think we get produce and meats flown into the United States?
I'm not saying that, but we do have food in America. So the main thing, the jobs that they're talking about that are being exported overseas are these manufacturing jobs. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't think it correlates to the point of the fact that companies, if they have to spend more money to make their goods, they're going to charge you more for what they produce. That's just
if things become unaffordable, people aren't going to buy them.
And when that happens, they address, like McDonald's, for example, they tried to come out with a new $5 thing because their business was down. But
I'm talking manufacturing,
bro. You're where you think McDonald's food ain't manufacturing? It's all processing. It's all food processing. Who knows where to like you don't think that's a form of manufacturing?
You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like electronics.
No,
fellas, let me hop in really quickly. So I love to give A Black an opportunity to wrap this part of the conversation up. Right now, we was getting deep into Econ 101 debate with G and Trey, in which, as good as it is, I think that we're gonna try and stay the course a little bit. A Black, talk to us.
You know, man, I got distracted by the comment section, but hey,
y'all. Hey, also comments. My bad. Let's try and keep it a little civil. Let's refrain from the ad hominems, from like the yeah. Come on, guys. But my bad. No, Johnny, you just want to see the world burn, and I've learned that about you. You wanted to get as crazy as possible. Let's keep some level of civility. A Black.
Yeah, what part I'm wrapping up?
Oh, just I know that you sound like you might have been you might have been the only one that kind of had Trump winning inside the debate. But we kind of got off you for a second, so I feel like it's fair for you to kind of rehash your opinion.
If he didn't like lose, it's a win, but I don't think it was a win for either or a loss for either. You know, I think they both kind of. I don't think either party changed nobody's mind for real. Like at this point, you know who you voting for. I don't think nobody did nothing devastating enough to like really like shift that. So, yeah, I mean, I felt like the moderators a little bit were going at Trump a little more. That was the thing. I don't know if I was tripping or not.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. For sure.
Like they were checking everything he said and kind of not really doing the same with her. And she was wrong about a few things too. You know, she was just playing on I feel like all the little Trumpisms and stereotypes and like, look at this guy, y'all. Like y'all gonna really vote for him? Like you heard what he said, isn't that grand? Like she just kind of like
she was trying to get the memes off for sure. You can tell that with the facial expressions.
Yeah, so but I don't think it was a real loss or win for either one of them.
Like okay. All right, fair enough. It sounds like what 3-1. Well, who did I say? No, I guess 4-1. I'm like I said, I'm actually.
I think Kamala.
Huh?
Don't put me on from that 4.
Johnny, not Johnny. Trey, you clearly said that you thought that she won, but she was on steroids.
I never said that she won.
Okay.
I said the Astros won, but they cheated.
You said the Patriots won, but it was Spygate. The Astros won, but Mark McGuire won, but he had like you went down that whole road to say that. I don't know what else you could mean besides for that.
Kamal didn't win. I said that they both lost. It was.
Okay.
If I had to pick one, I'll say Trump.
Okay. All right, real quick. We're gonna spend maybe 10 minutes on this, but today is a day inside American history. Is a day that comes with a lot of conversations, and some might quote unquote say tinfoil conspiracies. But I'll toss it in with this video, and then we can kind of get into a little bit of the conversation. But we'll stay here for like maybe 10. If anybody has anything kind of like an interesting conspiracy that they may think, I don't even want to use the word conspiracy, but an interesting idea that might be contrary to popular belief. We'll listen, and then we'll get into the actual topic at hand. But here we go.
Rumsfeld gave before 9/11, the day before the attacks, Rumsfeld gave a press conference where he talked about trillions of dollars missing. The day, then a plane slams into the very part of the building where they were doing the accounting, blows up half the fucking building in the Pentagon, blows up a wall. Donald Rumsfeld was on, where was it, the White House lawn?
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions. 2.3.
Okay, now, again, somebody told you that literally, like right before 9/11 happened, they said they couldn't track $2.3 trillion. No, that didn't happen. That did not happen, but it did.
So nonetheless, tinfoil Joe right there, but I'd love to get into everybody, if y'all have an interesting concept or conspiracy, quote unquote, or truth that might explain some things. Johnny.
Didn't they just say like recently that it was like another $1 trillion from the Pentagon that like couldn't be accounted for like this year? Like I don't know how people didn't say nothing about it, but like, so it seems like another reset. If you're a conspiracy theorist, seems like another reset may be on the horizon. But you know, I'm just looking at patterns. $2 trillion go missing. You have the 9/11. Another $1 trillion go missing. I don't know if COVID was the reset or they got something else bigger planned, but like it looked like, once they start fucking the money up like that, they got to do something to, scapegoat it and not be the bad guy. So just be on the lookout. A lot of the conspiracy theories ain't as crazy as we made them out to be. They just ain't have all the facts, but they was on to something. They just didn't know how to put it all together. But time tells all.
Got it.
Man, I think that's why we have to make sure we cannot let them tell us they do not have money for reparations. That's one thing that's very clear. They're losing trillions of dollars all the time. They're losing billions. They got billions for migrants. And then when we say we need cash reparations, just like Native Americans, all these other groups get cash reparations, we let them get off of saying they don't have the money there, and then we'll vote without even pressing it.
So do y'all believe like the towers was hit by planes and fell because of the planes and stuff like that? Or do you believe it was like they was intentionally demolished type deal?
I mean, I think what happened actually happened. Like, I think, like, I don't believe like thing, but I also think
y'all haven't heard that.
Well, yeah.
What you mean? What happened actually happened? The planes clearly hit the building, but that the way the buildings fell, that looked real weird, bro. It looked like a controlled.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I think the buildings they flew the like. I think they let it happen, and whatever happened just happened. But like I don't. Like I say, I don't know.
You think the buildings just fell like that, but because the plane hit it?
Both of them. No planes ever fallen. Planes hit skyscrapers all the time. These are only two that ever
I won't. Yeah, I don't know. Like I probably don't. Like you put me in the corner. I probably don't.
You can believe what you believe, man. You think it happened the way it happened.
I just asking, yeah.
I put me in a corner. I might not. I watch Loose Change and the revised one. So like, I probably don't believe it.
You know about Building 11? There's another building that was a few blocks down that fell the same way, and the plane didn't even hit it.
Exactly. There was a third building that fell.
It's hard to say it happened the way they say it happened, but I'm a good faith operator, but that'll get you in trouble just operating in good faith. You'll be a product of propaganda, according to the fence sitter.
Hey, Black. Anything?
I honestly forgot about 9/11 until y'all mentioned it today. Like, I ain't think about it once like I normally do, but I also wasn't like watching TV and stuff. I don't know if I got a major conspiracy. I mean, when you look at the videos, the building, especially the second building, it fell so uniformly, like kind of when they do demolitions and they plant the bombs around the foundation the right way so it falls properly and don't knock on another building. So I mean that was something to look at, because if the plane hit something that high, why don't just leave a hole or lean it or nothing? It just kind of fell straight down. So I don't know, man. Like, I felt like a lot changed after that, national security wise, as far as
they created TSA after that.
Oh, I was telling somebody about going to the airport before 9/11 versus
Homeland Security didn't exist. They created multiple businesses.
It was a vibe before 9/11.
Industries.
So yeah.
Did y'all see Dick Cheney just endorsed Kamala Harris too?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Mr. Inside Job himself.
Hey Q, before we move on, can we talk about one more before we get into the meat and potatoes?
What you got, Johnny?
Your boy Shannon. He
Shannon?
I just read it. He said he wasn't hacked.
What happened?
Speaking of conspiracy,
you ain't seen it, Q. You ain't heard.
Oh, damn. All right. The internet happening right now? Hold on. Go ahead and say.
Hey, Johnny, go ahead and let them know for people. So just some context some context.
If you hadn't heard, Shannon was
Shannon
Sharp, First Take. He was allegedly hacked, and he went live.
He dropped a sex tape.
Well, you couldn't see nothing, but you heard something.
Paul Pierce 2.0.
Yeah, the new Paul. But he said he was hacked initially. He said he said his team was on it. They investigating, but like minutes ago.
This nigga got cyber analysts on the team.
He admitted. He just admitted that he wasn't hacked. He
admitted it.
I got a clip of what looks like the him addressing it.
I wonder if he's about to get fired or what.
I'm gonna play a little bit of it. I didn't.
Oh, I gotta see this. Oh man,
Shannon. Shay, there are a lot of people that count on Shannon to be professional at all times, and I always try to be professional at all times. Even when I'm behind closed doors, I still try to remain a level of. Even when I'm behind closed doors,
when I'm getting them cheeks,
to remain a level of professional, although I'm in the privacy of my own home. And I'm very disappointed in myself. Not for the act. I think there are millions and billions of people of consenting age that engage in activities. But to have your most intimate detail on the audio to be heard, I'm disappointed in myself. I called them. I called my sister. My friends reached out. But guys, this was not staged. Came in, I threw my phone. Staged. Came in, I threw my phone on the bed.
Got to work
in an activity. I did not know IG Live. I've never been on IG Live. I've never turned IG Live on, so I don't know how it works. And so, all of a sudden, my other phone is going off, and people are calling me FaceTime that I've never talked to a day in my life on FaceTime. And it didn't. I'm like, why are y'all calling me FaceTime? And after a while, Jamie Fritz, who's been my longtime marketing guy, he finally got through to me, and he says, Shannon, you on IG Live. I'm like, doing what? You know, I'm like, what am I on IG Live for? I ain't getting no IG Live button. He says, they can hear. I'm like, so now, Ocho, you know, I say ask for patience. He said they can hear. And now I'm starting to get agitated again because you called me and say I'm on IG Live when I know I didn't click myself on IG Live. And he said they can hear me. I said, hear me doing what? He said, it sounds like you were having sex. Man, my heart sank. It dropped. And obviously,
Let it run, Q.
I run my account.
Let it run, okay.
But Jordan, being the good Samaritan, the good soldier that he is, Jordan, the one that cut it off. Because hell, I didn't even know it was on. Jordan cut it off. Jordan.
This is what our generation do to us.
And then after I called my agent, the agency. I called ESPN. After I just got this good. Tell them the truth. I said I just got to tell them the truth. My phone wasn't hacked. It wasn't a prank. It was me being a healthy, active male. I mean, y'all thought I was bull jiving.
He said them hips all right.
I'm gonna get it in. Real talk. Hey, Ocho, I know, man, I'll be lying. I'm lying. Okay, lying.
Oh,
come on, man.
He sparks hard, Ocho. And, you know, I hit one early this morning. But in all sincerity, I'm extremely embarrassed. That a very, very private, intimate.
Oh man, what was that he pulled out? What was those?
It looked like a Bluetooth or something.
Oh shit!
Situation. The audio can be heard, and I'm extremely disappointed in myself. 2
This
minutes,
is a
5
nigga,
minutes
bro.
before I
You
came
can't even
home,
get through this
phone
seriously.
It's Cat.
I'll get
Cat
it in.
Williams. What's up? The first thing out of his mouth, guess what he said, Ocho? You ain't gay today.
Hey, listen.
I said, man.
Hey, listen.
Come on, Cat. He's like,
and this is the funny thing about it. Now you remember all the people talking trash and saying whatever they had to say, trying to assassinate your character, that you might be this, you might be this, or whatever it may be. So hell, I mean, I'm sitting back, I'm thinking, well, hey, it was a goddamn Michelle, it wasn't a Michael.
Damn. Hey, they clipped that one great.
Oh man.
Was that Chad telling him like, I'm proud you just wasn't gay? That's crazy.
Yo, this we gotta blame this man generation. He generation X. That's one of that's going up the blame just off Shannon Sharp tonight. We gotta blame his generation for this silliness here. That is nuts.
Good night. Johnny, this is your topic. Kick it off for us.
Hey, grace. You know, empathy. Like, mistakes happen. I'm glad he admitted. You know, I'm glad he ain't wrong with the hacking. You know, the standing on business. I made a mistake. I was being a man. Sorry y'all had to see that, but you know, hey, I can only respect it. Like, I mean, mistakes happen. But
he lied first. He did lie first. Like, he not really standing on business.
He only let the lie stand for like 2-3 hours. He ain't let that lie stand for long. He came out and like admitted it. And like, cause what else you gonna say at first? Like, you gotta get your shit together before you just stand on business. Like,
no, I'm just mad. Chad was like, "Hey, everybody been calling you gay. I'm just glad it was a Michelle, not a Michael." That's crazy.
Wow. That's why he did it, low key.
That's what people were saying. That was people. He had to get that smut off his name. Well, not he had to.
I can't wait to hear Corey Holcomb take on this one, boy.
But the crazy thing though, like, I'm curious to see how ESPN, you know, Disney company. I'm very curious to see how they respond here, because like, he wasn't on camera, so there's no visual of anything.
This is not Paul Pierce. Let's be real.
Yeah, Paul Pierce was really on there like full out. He even though there was no nudity or nothing on Paul Pierce joint, he was just lit. Like,
Pierce. It was like actually like on TV, right? Paul Pierce.
He was on live.
Shannon Sharp be on TV too. He be on First Take.
Well, no, I thought that Paul Pierce happened. Like on the
No,
alternate
he was
broadcast.
he was on live. He was on
Yeah,
live with the
okay,
strippers
okay.
and the weed and like it was
Yeah.
a bunch of shit happening.
He did something else on a TV show with KG where he was talking about the escorts. He was like, "Yeah, they only call such and such."
Yeah,
Pierce the
they
Wild
was doing
Boy.
like a live stream of the game on Showtime
Okay,
too.
okay, that's
Pierce
the one
the
I'm
Wild
thinking about.
Boy.
That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
But,
his initial firing. Yeah, it was the strippers on IG Live. FBA, Trey. Do we have grace for the FBA, brother?
Man, I think it's crazy. This is our elders in a nutshell. A good caveat on the next show, man. Because, well, how old is I think he's kind of too old to be. I guess maybe he don't know how to work live, but dang, bro, like I watched another stream where he was talking about doing the groceries. Shout out to Janae Aiko with Ocho Cinco, and I was like, bro, like these are our elders, man. Disgusting. So to lend it into our current topic.
I mean, we the elders to somebody.
But right. That's why we're supposed to straighten up and not follow up behind that, bro.
Trey, tell him you ain't eating no groceries.
And even if I was, I wouldn't do. No, I'm not. But I'm saying like
hypothetically, allegedly.
He was like, hold on, let's not go too far. Hold up, but if I was, though. It was like, hold up, man.
No, I don't. But I think my point is that I think there should be some class of decorum that was kind of lost in the generation that brought us Freaknik and Lil Kims and the Trinas and all that.
So you don't think he did? You don't think that was by accident? You think he just wanted to let everybody?
Even if it was by accident, man, it's just like he was just on. I told you last week he was talking about doing the groceries on channel, so it's not like
that was last week.
Incident. It was on the late night thing he does on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big deal because it was just on in the background. And I heard them talking. I was like, bro, is this really? And they went on and on, like doing like weird metaphors, and it was like a good 10, 15 minutes. Bro, that's a weird topic for old men to be talking about, bro. On streaming live, bro. Like they don't have no shame, and you think it's okay,
like
bro?
Getting like smashing something like that's
like doing the groceries, bro. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, specifically, you talking about specifically that act?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I think he'd have been cool if he was just talking about smacking, but
okay.
I'm not saying that, but I mean, I don't want to like. I'm trying to stick to one thing at a time.
Oh, that ain't cool neither.
I mean, bro, like, why can't we have some class, bro? Like, the crassness of it all is just, when is enough, bro? like, I miss the time when people
like when you say class, though, like, I mean, who, like, whose class are we talking about? Like, talking about the white man's class and the white man's etiquette and the white man's, like,
the white man's class.
But the white man be on the internet talking about the same shit though.
But I'm saying when somebody says class or decorum, are we talking about the European standard of what class and decorum is, or like are we able to like define that in our own like 2024 what that is?
Bro, as a gentleman being overtly sexual in public, like that's not the white man's class. That's like the white man doesn't have a monopoly on having like, bro, you know what class is. You know it's not classy.
So pretty much, generally speaking, black men shouldn't talk about pretty much anything sexual on the internet, right?
I mean, bro, like not in something that is that publicly accessible with like kids could be watching. Like maybe if we can have our talk behind closed doors, but you putting stuff out there like on the net where kids can see it. It's like there was a time, like even when I was in middle school, you know how hard you have to work to see like a female like breast. Now it's just like
a dial-up internet
everywhere, bro. It's at some point it's disgusting, bro. Like
so bring that back into black men.
Titties ain't that.
I think as black men, we should hold ourselves to a standard to where we don't have to adopt all of this disgustingness that is a part of this culture in this Western culture that we're in. Like, I don't think we were like our grandparents didn't move like that. Like we never moved like that. We're adopting this stuff from like American culture. Like even in Africa.
Adopting which part, I guess.
Just
The sexual, the
Like
deliberation.
So your
all the
granddad
sexual
didn't have
liberation
no
stuff.
flicks
Bruh,
or the magazines.
did they even have flicks back then?
Yeah.
They all did. They're like it wasn't like a new thing. It just wasn't the internet. We ain't had the internet back then.
But even if they did,
Hustler magazine.
Like, have you heard like Rudy, like all the old comedy guys from back in it, all the records?
Bro, I'm not saying that they didn't have like a drive.
They were definitely like, you talking about when like Red Fox would record the tapes and when they would record their sets. That's some of the most. That's when I got introduced to like, wow, like vivid audio stories of just niggas doing crazy, dirty talking, like crazy.
Hey, shout out to Pam Grier too. She
one of them was.
She one of them ones back in the day.
Pam
that
Grier
was different.
Like, see, Pam Grier was sexy without being like slutty.
She had her titties out.
She dropped her set in every movie.
Foxy Brown. I mean, I don't want to say slutty, but like promiscuous. Like, you know, she sexed it up for the time for sure.
But, like she did full like she dropped them every single movie.
Sex figure, no question.
Sex symbol.
Yeah, sex symbol.
I'm just so surprised that they're being like so like zealously advocating just like free sexual like openness like publicly. Like, bro, like, come on, bro. You do what you want to do, but like, why do we have to put it on Front Street? It's not classy. It's crass. It's not very gentlemanly.
I agree with that point, by the way. That has nothing to do with the phenomenal icon of Pam Grier and what she means to the culture. But I do agree with the overall point that.
Yeah, but I guess where the interjection comes at is the fact that you were painting it just specifically on a generation where, in essence, we just walked down the line of like every generation doing very similar.
Bro, Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco had a podcast with their public figures. I don't think public figures of that time who were popular and mainstream were like, maybe we had some underground stuff, but not our big faces that were like, we have a president running, like both of our presidents were very like.
So like this is a standard that you have for like just ex-football players.
I'm saying Kim Kardashian is a billionaire off a sex tape.
So you think when it's a movie, the husband should sleep in one bed and the wife should sleep in the other? Like back in the day on TV, Leave It to Beaver type shit, where they was in separate beds. The husband and wife weren't even in the same bed.
I think it's a question. Go ahead, A-Black. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, A-Black. What you saying?
No, I was just saying I would prefer the 2-bed thing, but nah, go ahead.
Oh, you would like it like that, Black.
Do your thing, and I
feel that, especially on the TV show.
I think he said he would personally prefer the 2-bed thing.
Oh, a personal preference. Oh, word.
That's an ideal arrangement for A-Black.
Space.
Ladies, if you listening, ladies, if you listening, the nigga will leave you cold at night.
All right, so fellas, I guess right now we're close enough to the conversation to where it makes sense to hop into it. The generational divide. So from we done with the 90s to old heads hating on every single new music artist. It's safe to say that we are inside a bit of a generational divide on a couple different levels. So I guess I'll ask, matter of fact, I won't even ask that question. I'll ask y'all, before we dive too deep into it, I'll give the prompted question. I love to hear everybody's initial response, and then we'll dig into the conversation. We'll kind of like slow walk through a couple of different topics, but the question at hand is, should we blame a previous generation for society today?
Of course, bro. Like, we weren't like Tupac said, I didn't make this world, I was born in, something along those lines. But y'all probably can correct me on the quote. Like, we adopted, like we were taught by these people, like the generation before us. Like, I really hate to beat up on old people. You know, I was raised to respect our elders or olders or whatever. So, old people, they suck at politics, bro. Like they have no political strategy other than to vote blue no matter who. And they're going to keep doing that. And right now, they just want a peaceful death, right? Respectfully. Like they don't want to, revolutions for the young. So they're going to keep doing that. And if you question the Democrat Party, they get hostile and call you all kind of sellouts and stuff. They don't know, they don't care about the policy. They're low information voters a lot of times. And they never fight for reparations. The reparations movement came from us. We know more about our history than they do. Like all they know is Africa, 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 and George Washington Carver and Harriet Tubman. Like we know, I'm teaching all these older people about all the race riots that we had, everything was stolen from us. Like Tulsa, we taught them about Tulsa, Oklahoma. They went for generations without even speaking about stuff like that. And then they're just now fighting for reparations. The way Johnny Cochran was fighting for that, and they offed him. He was one of the last great people of his generation. Same with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Now we have Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and do nothing like that. That's my intro.
Hey, can I hop in there? Cause my response, because like I think, like,
well, hold on real quick, Trey. So you didn't put that to any generation. You just said all older people.
I would say the older people, the generation between Malcolm X, because we had a lot of riders in that.
So you're talking about Generation X,
the civil rights legacy generation,
or the boomers,
the ones who were integrated into these white schools. So they thought that the strategy for Black empowerment was to get white acceptance in the pounded head and sexual, what they call it, sexual access. And they thought once they had that, then Black empowerment, they put that to the wayside.
I think that's like late boomers, early Generation X. Like it's like maybe like a fine line. But I'll say this: I think we are products of our environment. We're products of our upbringing. Of course, like the things that they did, like we're directly like influenced. We're directly a result of that. So of course, like we're a product of the previous generation. They can be blamed for like the current state of everything. Of course, like that's just a natural state of things.
And is this all older people, or is there a specific generation that you feel dropped the ball?
Well, I think the thing I just said, like that, and maybe not all the way back to boomers, and not all of Generation X, but maybe like that.
So what years are you talking about? Like what generation are you talking about? People that were adults during what time period?
Maybe like people born before like 1975, 1980. Like I don't know exactly, or maybe like everybody born before 1970. Maybe
I got a little breakdown right here of some different generations. If you want me to like speak to the years, I could put the link in.
Okay, but like I do have something else though. I think our generation is the only generation, like Trey said, we're the ones going back and like informing people. We live in an information age. I think our generation is the only generation that has actually had the real tools to actually go back and make a change. So I think there is a lot more responsibility on us because of the tools and the times that we live in and the technology that we have. So there is a lot more responsibility on us to change it. But where we are is definitely like a response of like our upbringing. Like of course, like we're products of our environment and of the previous generation, but we have way more tools than they did to not fall into the same games, the same traps. And we can, even if it's too late for our generation, we have way more tools to leave a better world and a better country for the next generation. Way more tools than they did.
Like
this would be the breakdown that A Black was not A Black, but G was speaking about.
Yeah, so like for me personally, like
then Generation X in there, like maybe it's that whole it's the boomers and Generation X based on this.
So the way I'm kind of looking at it is like it's kind of like layered, because I do believe in generational trauma, like things getting passed down from one generation to the next. And I feel like that silent generation, low key, people born from 28 to 45, as well as some of the what they call the GI generation, like, but these are the folks who ultimately were the generation of the civil rights movement, in my opinion. a lot of those leaders come from these generations, and so it's like a two-sided coin, in my opinion. The push for civil rights is to not be understated. But what that ended up leading to was this almost like once we got our civil rights, and then in the 70s, heroin and the drugs epidemic started to take place. These were the same people who like quickly criminalized our community and started like creating harsh penalties and allowing policing in our communities to like go to certain levels. So they didn't really protect the next generation, and they somewhat allowed policies to be created to attack our generations in disproportionate ways. And I think you can see that in the data as it relates to just incarceration rates. That documentary, if you look at like when the spike took off for like highest incarceration rates, if you look at the 13th Amendment documentary on Netflix. But yeah, so that's why I would say I feel like if I gotta say point a finger at kind of where we are today, it is, I think, in large part due to a lot of the policy set by those generations that we're having to overcome.
Facts, bro. Did you know they coined the phrase black on black crime? Jesse Jackson and all them.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bill Cosby's from this era. He used to talk about, oh, knucklehead, pull your pants up, all that type of shit. Like that sort of mindset of like targeting our community as if like we're not the same community. That's kind of where that comes from to me.
Gotcha. Hey, Black. Initial thoughts. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I think definitely the generations before us have a large part to play in it. I don't think it was intentional. You know, I feel like every generation try to do better, try to do different. And I would say it was those, 80s and 90s parents that not really failed, but it was this whole era of kind of giving your kids everything that you didn't have. And, I think it was Johnny was just saying we got all these tools, but I think a lot of the tools increased comfort level, which made people more antisocial. People are affected differently because you have all these tools of communication, but they're not even really communicating. You got a lot of dependency issues because parents, in their quest for you to not struggle like they did, overcompensated, overgave. So you have this generation now of kind of people that's like handicapped in a lot of different ways, whether socially, whether professionally, but because they were kind of baby this new generation and the money booming in the 80s, the 90s, consumerism rising and whatnot, people getting money and whatnot, and trying to thinking like with good intent that we're gonna do everything to fulfill these American dream, give our kids everything that they wanted, and work, and in this working culture we are losing a lot. Having a lot of disconnect from the past that came from struggle, that came through challenges that we faced, that forged us, that showed us the importance of family and family structure. Now it's this era of get it on your own, people leaving home, a lot of people, matriarchs and patriarchs passing, and families disassembling. So that a lot of that is on the older generation, and then the younger generation's issue is like not listening when people do try to guide or teach them. You old, you washed, you don't know, things are different. So, I mean, it's two sides to a coin, but I think the older generation failed us, but not intentionally. I think they tried and they just kind of did it the wrong way.
Gotcha.
Hey, can I respond to one of the comments? I want to respond because like I think it's something that's like important.
Is this going to be something that we're going to address inside the whole conversation? Or
I don't know where we're
go ahead,
Johnny.
I
saw a comment, and like I just want to put it out there before we get too deep into it. Is like we're not like it said that like the boomers didn't have any knowledge. We're not saying that like boomers, like we're not like pointing fingers, and like there's grace and empathy that comes with that, and you didn't have the amount of knowledge that we had, but like there was a lot of things that we did learn from the previous generation. And like I don't want it to get like misconstrued that we're just like all just finger pointing, because like the previous generation did have knowledge. There's a lot of things that they taught us as far as
Trey said,
perseverance.
speak for yourself.
But then and that's why I'm speaking for myself, because I know where it's gonna go. Like I gotta put this out there. Like I see Miss Sharon. Hey, Miss Sharon, I love you. Like there's a lot that we learned. I don't know what this man to my left is about to say.
Hold on. Can I piggyback on John real quick, bro? Because, bro, I don't want to do that.
Let's just walk our way through the conversation. I'm sure through walking it. Go ahead, Trey.
I want to beat up on the older people, man. We just have to recognize the difference between wisdom and old foolishness. And if we're going to correct a lot of the things in our culture, we're going to have to address it for what it is. Like, I don't even talk to old people about politics because I already know what it is, because I don't want to hurt their feelings and offend them. But if we're going to have this conversation, then, you know, I'm sorry to the older folk. I apologize, but it's real. It's real.
All right, cool. So nonetheless, let's start getting into the crevices of the actual conversation. So the first thing I think probably would be good to do is, I know that the topic is broad. It just says society. And by society, I want to make sure that we establish the baseline. Are we all talking about Black people in America in general? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about.
Okay. All right. So with that established baseline, I'll ask the first question. Do you believe that society today is doing bad? And by what metrics are you judging that off of? On a quick look up of, like, I guess these are some things that I did see. Employment in general is up. Attainment of higher education is up. Crime in jail is down. Drug usage and overdoses are up. Home ownership down. Active parenting up. Co-parenting up. Single motherhood, or like quote unquote non-marriages is up. Marriage rates are down. That's the easier way to describe that. So again, I pose the general question: do you believe that society today is doing bad, and that's quote unquote worse than other generations? And by what metric are you judging it off? Whoever wanted.
Worse.
Me personally, I say I would be disrespecting. I feel like if I was to say society itself, if I were to say it's bad, I feel like that would be disrespectful to the prior generations, in that, at least for where I can speak for myself, I know, like, you know, I'm the first person to finish high school on my father's side of the family. So when we talk about like doing like quote unquote bad or whatever the case, you know, a lot of curses have been broke as of recently, if you will. And
G, as you talk, I'm gonna bring up. I got a couple just stats that I'll kind of run down. I'll share it as you continue talking.
Okay, and I just feel like I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if certain sacrifices weren't made, and I know those sacrifices weren't easy to make, but it all led to, you know, the moment, the present day. So I can't say that it's the word I'm looking for is that society is bad, because I feel like the opportunities that I have versus what my elders had versus what their elders had, and their ability to create a life for themselves in this society looks a lot different. So I would say that I wouldn't disrespect it and say that it's bad, but I wouldn't overhype it and say that everything is great and that there's not a lot of room for improvement. There's clearly room for improvement. We're clearly not where we need to be, but I wouldn't go as far to say that like it's quote unquote bad, because if you focus and you lock in, you can control a lot of your destiny, I do believe.
Got it.
I think black people are doing better within the lens of what the capitalist game of America is. I think we're earning more. It's more of us moving into what's called the middle class, the education, all the metrics. I think the problem is, as a whole, American society is no longer like that top tier society. I think even if American society is falling down and we're becoming like no longer the superpower, even if us as black people are doing better in America, that no longer holds the same weight that it may have 10, 15, 20 years ago. But I think I'm saying like I mean, if you look at the metrics of like home ownership, education, income, like I think we're doing better as a whole, like by the metrics. I think like if you look at just metrics, we are doing better.
We had a whole black community to be able to shopping with ourselves. Like before we took what they gave us from the dominant society before the welfare system, before we started yearning for white acceptance and integration, we were doing better as a community. Like now it's like we have some jobs, we don't own the companies. Like we don't own nothing.
I think there's certain metrics where we're not doing as good as the past, but overall, I think it's way easier to be a black person in 2024 than it was in 1954.
I'm just talking about ownership, actually, because you talk about sovereignty, and we're a lot further from sovereignty than we were.
That's what I'm speaking on, but yeah, it's way easier to walk around being black now than it was like for our granddaddy.
Like, yeah, when we say society, we're talking holistically, right? I just want to make sure we're on the same page, right? Like we're talking like holistically, just like the day-to-day life in America for a citizen, I'm assuming, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I only say I believe so only because this is one of our dear brother's questions. So I don't want to necessarily like completely frame it as my own. But that's what I took it as when we speak about society today, black people, the day to day, like generally speaking, all the things that come within being a black person.
As FBAs, man, we need to have a community. Like as far as the wealth gap, like there was a time where like the farmland, I think we own like close to like 40% of it. Now we're like at low single digits. As far as the wealth, I think the black average wealth is like under $100, and then the white wealth is like thousands, tens of thousands, and then we have an influx of like millions of migrants who they're giving the resources, and we're voting for. So like we're voting for our own ethnic or racial, and we're not even waking up to the cycle that we're on. So, I mean, we can lift our heads up and pat ourselves on the back because the KKK is not lynching us anymore. But I think we need to wrap our heads around like an economic strategy that, sets up, like we have to think like 20 years from now, not just now. Like, where are we headed if we continue down this direction?
Got you. So I guess by the metrics, there are more black people inside percentage wise when you say middle class, higher middle class, and I guess lower middle class than in previous generations, and that also occupy like the top higher percentage. So when you say economics, are you speaking about like, I guess what do you mean? If like in general today it's doing better wholesale percentage wise when it comes down to economics?
Just wealth, like not just who has a job and who has a house. Like what, like if white people have multiple houses and we're happy because we finally have a house, is that like something to really cheer about? Especially like there's a wealth gap. I think that the people in the 1% are primarily made up of non-black people. So if you compare the wealth like with those metrics, then if we're not in any of those places, then basically they just turn us all into peasants, and then black people they demoted some of the white class to put them down with us, and then we think that because we're at the same level with them, that means we're getting something. But at the end of the day, the people who are making are in positions of power, they just have us down with the rest of it, and it gives us the illusion that we're doing well because the KKK put on cop uniforms now and they're not lynching us. But at the end of the day,
I guess this would be what I was referring to.
If we don't own our own companies, if we're not shopping with ourselves, if we don't have our own factories and anything like that like we used to, then it's hard to say that we're doing better.
I don't think it was a question of better. It was is society good or bad? That was the question, right? It was like good or bad, not necessarily better.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I guess like this would be the antecedent before the question, where we have to kind of like establish the fact that we think that society is doing worse or bad to say that the previous generation has failed it.
But I'm just talking about a lot of our strategies to dig up out of this hole. And then I think a lot of the behaviors that we learned from the previous generation were less, like the generation that gave us the Malcolm X's, the Stokely Carmichaels, the Ida B. Wells, like all these legends that we think about. I don't think about many that are Al Sharpton's age, like the Crumps and all them. But if we had stuck behind the Malcolm X's of that generation, and like the Farrakhan's, like he's an example of do for self. There were more like him in his generation. But the generation in between, they're just way more concerned with like Freaknik and stuff like that. Is partying and bullshit, and just anything goes. But real quick, the stat I was gonna say is like the average white household wealth is $250K. The average black household is $24K, and then we have more competition coming in here, and they're getting prioritized by our vote. So if we didn't get anything as the bottom, like as third in line, what are we going to get when we're fifth in line? And then even those cops that beat up Tyreek Hill, those are all Hispanic police officers, man. So
got you. But I guess if we're staying to the point of the conversation, are you saying that they failed us, or that it's doing? Yeah, I guess they failed us in general when it comes down to inability to build institutions that would. Well, I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around like your exact gripe per se.
I think they have zero revolutionary mentality. I think if you say anything to them about putting your lineage and your first, like your descendants of black freedmen, like if we say that we should be the priority, a lot of them might call you a racist. Because I even asked some of the people, like I said last week, I said, if you voted for Trump and you knew guaranteed all the black people would get the reparations we deserve, would you want that? And then they said no, because they just want to vote blue and they're scared of this. Like almost like they're scared of power.
So is it more or less that you don't necessarily believe that they failed us as much as you don't agree with where they've settled at currently?
I think that if we listen, I think ideally we would have a group of people ahead of us who would be able to give us like a revolutionary zeal, to where we have faith in our people and we don't yearn for white acceptance. But instead, we have people just telling us, pull your pants up and be a good boy.
That's a tough
gotcha.
ask. That's a tough ask, Trey.
Johnny, before you hop in, I want to make sure everybody does answer that question. I know we've kind of had like a decent length back and forth. Can't remember everybody who has answered it, but I'll pose it again. Do you believe that society today is doing bad / worse than previous generations? And if so, by what metrics are you judging it by?
But I think the previous generation, I'll let A Black, because I want to just respond to Trey, but I don't know who else.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say the metric I would say, because it's hard to say when you say bad in so many different areas, it's so broad, but I would say the main metric would be opportunity. Like the previous generation at least created a society where you had more opportunity and more freedom to do things that they didn't. And I feel like, some shit could be better, some might be worse, but inevitably we got more opportunity, I feel like, and freedoms than the previous generations. And
wait, my bad. So you said that Are you saying that today we do have more opportunities, or we don't have more opportunities?
Yeah, I said we do. Like I'm looking at
Okay.
society as good as bad. I feel like they helped create a society, people before us, that we have more opportunity, more freedom to achieve the things that we want. You know, we still got struggles, we still got roadblocks because of our race, because of our color. But I think initially we have more resources than ever, more opportunity, more chance to succeed than previous generations before us.
But before Trey hops in there, I just want to say this because I think like one of the biggest goals of the previous generation was to get our generation in the opportunity to where that we have the opportunities that we have to make the change. I think our generation knew that they weren't going to be able to do it, and I think that's where some of the misdirect and some of it comes from. Couldn't always see, but like Martin Luther said, he went to the mountaintop. He saw what the ultimate goal was, but I think he probably was never going to be the best one to give us exact directions on how to achieve his vision. He just laid it out there for us. So I think they did their job as far as lining us up to make us open-minded, to giving us the platforms to where we are the generation that's going to question this shit and try to change it. And I think that was their only goal, or the only thing they needed to do. And based on that metric, they were a success because we're building on their platform. But I think ultimately, they weren't going to make the change. We're the ones that got to make that change, and we can point fingers, but it got to come down to us.
But John, what I get what you're trying to say, and it sounds good, but I don't think they want power. Like they could care less. They want to have a comfortable seat under white supremacy. They don't want to defeat white supremacy.
Not all of the old generation wants that. They want us to have the power. They might not understand how to get it. They might not understand how to operate in it. But ultimately, what they wanted for us was the opportunity and the ability to seize power, and that's what we have right now.
Bro, but they don't even want to. They don't want to even think about their vote critically. Like it's usually you can't even talk to an older person about voting against Biden. Like they'll let Biden. Like they're so hypocritical, bro. Like if Trump questions whether Kamala Harris is black,
but they're going to be. That don't mean they didn't. That don't mean they didn't. That don't mean they didn't do their job. That don't mean like they didn't set us up to like do what we need to do to change that. They did their job. Of course, they not gonna they didn't grow up with cell phones. And like it's a lot of things they really don't understand. But like what they instill.
Because they're not adding fuel to our fire. They're trying to extinguish our fire. You're making it sound as though they're trying to encourage us when we start thinking outside the box. But I'm telling you, they're more like oh no, what you trying with Master Biden now? Just out there now. You know he feeds us good type. They have this plantation mentality to where they don't want us to be making no trouble type of deal. They even had that same mentality with Malcolm X. Like if you look at some of those old videos, he wasn't universally accepted in the black community. A lot of them disagree with him. Same with MLK. A lot of them have a plantation mentality, bro. They don't want power.
But I think they are. But I mean, of course, I mean that's how they was raised. That's their generation. That's all they know.
So you can't have it both ways and tell me that.
But you saying though. Okay, Trey, I get it, bro. Like, yeah, but it's their fault. We can't do nothing about it. But like, what I'm saying is like, there's an opportunity that we have to be the leaders that we want and to get them to follow us. And you don't think that's possible. You don't think so it's fuck them. It's fuck them. We can't do nothing.
I'm not gonna say fuck them because I love them. They're my family.
Would you rather be born in 2000, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50? Like which of those years do you think is the best year to be born?
I mean, we have a lot more. Today we have a lot more luxuries, so I think it's
tools, bro. Those ain't luxuries.
So like of all the optimal years to be born, like if we just look at what each generation had when they were brought into this world, where do you think is like what do you think is the right year?
I don't understand how that is relevant.
Because we talking about the older generation versus the new. I'm like, okay, so I'm asking you, like, where's the sweet spot for you? Like, which generation hit the mark? Like, where do you think?
Yeah, like, and I guess in essence, if you're saying you'll be rather be born today, it's hard to say that society's worse.
Exactly.
Bro, I'm talking about as black people. I think we're more asleep.
Even
now.
as a black person, you'd rather be born today than in the.
Bro, I think where the disconnect between where I'm saying and where y'all are is y'all are talking about the comfort under white supremacy, and I'm talking about the mission to dismantle that and replace it with a system of justice. I think that they saw our revolutionary spirit in a couple generations back before the boomers, and then when they saw where that was going, they knew that they had to offer some concessions. So they gave us the integration instead of black empowerment.
Internet, like the internet, that's concessions. That's for everybody.
Bro, that's inevitable. You're talking about comforts and luxuries under white supremacy, bro. I'm thinking about everything. We need to dismantle this system, bro. We are at the bottom.
I'm talking about tools that we have to dismantle systems. It's the same shit. Like we got we're the information age. We're the ones that can actually go like you know how confident you are when you speak in this shit. We're the only generation that has that ability, and it's because
the fact that you can speak it and not get lynched is a whole other.
Man, I don't even update my policy. I don't even blame just the old people. It's also a lot of us too.
Oh, now it's our fault too.
Like a lot of us are not.
You heard him. You keep saying we. You're not like us.
It's a lot. Yeah, a lot of people.
I got that Canada flag flying.
Even people I talk to, my peers, I would say pretty much every person in the former generation. That's the distinction. But I do find more people in our generation who are awake to the system that we're under and we want to dismantle. We're not going to talk about how much better the luxuries are when we know that we're still under this oppressive system. And we can't let that rock us to sleep. At the end of the day, if somebody's going to dismantle the system, it needs to be us, because at the end of the day, it targets us specifically.
I agree with you, but bro, you doing I'm talking about using technology and the tools that we have, and that's literally what you're doing right now is using the internet to like get these points. Like you're literally doing this shit. Like we got the tools. Like our granddaddies couldn't get on a podcast and say what you're saying.
They couldn't even get on the radio. Even like their time of error of communication. They couldn't like that. They could maybe try to submit something to get an editorial in a newspaper. Maybe that's if they were literate enough to write it
to get this shit off. And
like that's race ride started for what they put in the newspaper. I get what you're saying.
Well, let's start a race ride off the podcast. So like we got
we don't have. They're not going to start a race ride because we're having this information. All I'm trying to say is you're right. They didn't have access to the information, so we're different. But not only that though, they are so late at this point to having access to this information that they're too far gone.
They're not our leaders. We're the leaders. It's about getting them to follow us. You can't question
They're not going to follow us, bro. We need to
that's on us as leaders, like whether we get them to follow us or not.
They're not.
Hey, Johnny Trey,
you can't convince them not to vote.
Let me get A Black to kind of chime in for a quick second. A Black and G. I'm not sure if y'all actually answered the prompted question already.
Yeah, I said it can't be. I can't call it worse. Or I can't call it bad, rather, because of prior generations. I feel like I do truly feel that
got more nigga drinking
today versus 50 years ago. If you're a young Black person born in America, your ability to matriculate from one class to the next, you have a greater ability to do that today than you did 50 years ago. That's my opinion. Now, where I can agree is that we don't have the entrepreneurial ownership in terms of industries and institutions that we had at one point in this country. So I think on that front, like that particular front, there's like a glaring hole. But when you look at just the opportunities as a whole, like when you look at also like back then, there weren't a lot of jobs, quote unquote, that you could get to actually make a decent wage and have a career and ascend and do all these other things. These opportunities didn't even present themselves to these folks. It's like these older generations, like my grandfather, he had to farm or they weren't going to eat. Like you had to produce something off of your land, and then you had to barter what you produced to either make money or to trade for other things so you can have a good quality of life. That's not the type of life that I'm living, frankly. And I've never had to live that sort of a life. And so I'm not saying that in itself is bad or good, but I think if I had to choose like one route to take, I'm going to take this route and try to make the best of it versus say what my grandfather had to experience. Grandfathers, rather.
A Black.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I feel like it's better just because of more opportunity, you know, more access to freedom and do things. Like we can nitpick. I mean, spiritually, things are in decline. The tools that we got that could be used to connect are used to kind of magnify sometimes our worst stereotypes. So I mean, of course, you got bad, but I think overall, like I said, the chance to vote if you want to vote, and to work, to make as much money as you want to travel, to do things, you know, you're not as limited as generations before us.
Got you. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll try and move the conversation forward. It does seem like, I guess, theoretically we might have kind of like a standstill, but we'll kind of see where we end up at. So the next question, if we were, that'd be the better way to frame it. If we were to say that there was a drop off, or inside Trey's case, if there was a specific spot for us to place blame, where would y'all point to as like that moment, as that time?
Bro, this last generation, bro. This last
Well, when you say last generation,
give me like,
put a name on it.
You got to give like time frames to that.
Bro, I was saying after Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, that generation, we had a lot of riders in that generation.
You said y'all had there was a lot of writers in the Malcolm X in them generation. So this is like the 60s to 70s, correct?
These are people in the silent generation, roughly.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And so what you're saying is like people who were adults during which time? Or I guess, how about this? So it sounds like you're saying their kids. Is that what you're saying?
The boomers.
Right.
No, so are you saying like the kids of the civil rights leaders?
Yes.
Are the generation that you put blame on?
Yes, they're the most liberal crop of Negroes of all time.
It's like boomers and X, and even millennials to some degree.
Bro, they're abortion enthusiasts, LGBT enthusiasts. They even bring that mess into the church, bro. Like the generation before them would be so disappointed, bro.
Were black people innately against abortion?
Yeah,
no. Black people, you know, unfortunately, you know, black people were doing abortions, have been doing abortions, but unfortunately, like women have, like, they weren't healthy processes. Like abortion was a taboo thing, but it was like black women, like it was, you heard about like hangers and shit like that. Like it was very like inhumane, unhealthy forms that they would risk their lives to not have these babies. Like it wasn't like just going down to Planned Parenthood because you had insurance. You feel what I'm saying? Like it was very unhealthy in the black community. I'm talking like for older generations, like grandparents and older, like that was not uncommon.
I had to look into that, bro. I wasn't aware of our great grandparents generation being abortion like happy. Like they are.
I'm not saying abortion happy, but
right now they're abortion happy. They're abortion enthusiasts, bro. It's like, dang, have y'all not aborted enough babies yet? Like, dang, like this is a totally different situation than it was in our great grandparents. Back then, they were more careful with and selective with who they had sex with. Now it's just a free sex generation.
And just making sure. So
I don't know
you
if I
believe
agree
that
with
like
that.
the previous generation
Oh,
is more for abortion than our current generation?
No, our current generation is a continuation of the previous generation. I don't think our generation is any more or less enthusiastic. Actually, I see a lot more people coming out and saying maybe this isn't the way. Maybe when Margaret Sanger said that it was to black people like weeds, so she pushed abortion, and then we're pushing abortion in the black communities and not in the Hispanic communities. They get, they're giving them fertility clinics. That they're not giving the mothers things that they need, but they're just telling us to encourage abortions. That's all
But
they
you
talk
think
about
that
with black
like
people.
the 50 and 60-year-olds, like grandma,
Yes,
she
like my body,
telling
my
them to go
choice.
get them abortions, right?
Hey, well, hold on.
She like my
I
body,
think,
my choice. Except when it comes to vaccines.
well, I
That's
think
not
this.
they talking to them, honestly, when they started pushing the vaccine on them. But anyway, my fault.
No. But
Okay.
I think there's one important, like, when we previous generation and we talking about like values and like political strategy and what they're doing, like we all know the previous generation where their values are. The values contradict their political meaning. Like we all know about like how like our fathers are like super like we may even say homophobic, but they all vote Democrat because that's the political thing. So like you can't talk about values when we talk about political strategy and how they voting because we know where their values stand. A lot of it's contradictory.
A lot of black people are conservatives, and especially in the South,
especially in the church.
Yeah, the Bible Belt, the Bible Belt. Most black folks live a conservative lifestyle, but vote liberal.
The values
That's a fact.
are and so like if we gonna talk about, don't talk about the values though. Talk about the strategy. Call out well, this is what you really believe. But like if we start calling the values and these are bad people and we gotta blame them,
I
like
didn't
of
say
course
they were bad people, bro. I said they were indoctrinated. They're slaves to the Democratic Party. They will sacrifice their values, what you're saying, just to vote blue because they're so scared of the Republicans, bro.
But you gotta call out the principle. You can't call the person out. You can't
they
call
don't
the
care about the
out.
principle anymore, bro. I bring up the principles and they're like my body, my choice, bro.
I'm talking. Okay, all right, cool. But we see what the issue is. It ain't about their values. It's about how they vote.
But I don't even know anymore.
I wouldn't say that the older generation was any more sexually healthy. Like I would disagree that they didn't. I would disagree that we sleep around more than the older generation slept around. Like
no, bro, but single motherhood was
they slept around more because they couldn't get.
No, bro. Do you know the single motherhood started decades ago? Decades. Single motherhood is not a thing of the 80s or 90s. This is like they were talking about the rise of single mothers in the black home as early as what's that joint?
Hey, but on some place,
have you heard of the Negro Family? The case for national action. It was this dude did this report under Lyndon Johnson in the 60s.
I know what you're talking about. That's the generation I'm talking about, bro.
But that's 65. So that means
that's also the generation that you were
they were way more sexual
that you was promoting. And I guess if I was to kind of give some context to continue the conversation, I think G did hit on possibly like one of those like marquee points earlier inside the episode, where I think that when we get into like the blame conversation of like generations, we kind of run into like a weird little paradox where, so statistically, the worst time to be a quote unquote black person and like when crime was the worst and like all the metrics is as bad as it could be was late 80s, early 90s, the crack era. Like statistically, that was the worst time. But the interesting thing would be that this also would be the time that one, these are the kids of like the civil rights generation. So these are the kids that they raised. These are their offspring. So these are the kids that grew up inside their house, got the word from them, XYZ, and their direct lineage or offshoot of their teachings. So that'd be one thing. But then who's voting all the policies that we don't like during that time? When you look at who votes the most in voter blocks, it ends up being that same group that was out there front line, whether you're talking about like the college students at all these protests, the people that was marching, the people that was doing all these things. These are the exact same generation that quite possibly could have did the most and the most detrimental things to black people. If we're looking at inside like a generational space.
Well, this is a good time to say, I don't blame them for a lot of stuff because the leaders that I'm talking about that I big up to, most of them got like off, bro, assassinated because of the revolutionary power that I'm trying to like reclaim. So the people that were left are
so was it
only
only like 4 or 5 good black people?
It was more than 4 or 5, bro. That's just 4 or 5.
But if those people died, what happened to like the rest of everything?
What they say? That's one of the laws of power, man. You strike the head, the shepherd, the sheep are scattered type deal. And then they were dropping like flies during that era, bro. The COINTEL was going ham, bro, making examples out of people getting deported, the Black Panther going crazy. So I think that's why they did the crack epidemic and started putting crack in their blood because they wanted to, squash by that revolutionary spirit. So I think that our parents' generation are victims of that. So I don't want to judge them too harshly or blame them. My only point is like we can't like listen to them when it comes to making any strategies because their mind is like they've like been beaten silly, respectfully. And like I think they have squandered a lot of that revolutionary valor and that moral capital for like hardcore liberalism at this point. It's like they used to be the face of like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Now they're the face of the Democratic Party, and then globally they look crazy as hell with a lot of their policies, man. Like we're the #1 leader in LGBTQ and abortion at this point, and they always are sure to put a black face at the front of it. Even
we hold on, Trey. We are not the. I don't think we the leader in LGBTQ. I just respectfully. I don't know. I've lived in Europe. I lived in Amsterdam, and I don't think we the leader. I'm just gonna say there are some very more liberal places on that continent as it relates to LGBTQ than the United States, in my opinion.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I know for sure that Israel is leading us as far as LGBTQ stuff.
They not alone for sure.
And I know the whole United States isn't like Atlanta and San Francisco aren't reflective of the entirety of the United States. So I feel you there. But at the same time, the Democratic Party is kind of the party of LGBTQ and abortion. And their claim is that black women are the backbone. And even if you notice when they attack Trump, they always get a black woman to be the crash dummy to take the heat. So I think we're like willing tools for a lot of these policies that are contrary to our nature. If we talk about the generations that actually fought for a lot of these changes benefits, because you talk about how good things are today, but that's no thanks to our parents' generation. That was thanks to the Malcolm X and the Medgar Evers and the people that sacrificed their lives, and also the Black Panthers and the Black Liberation Movement, everyone like that, who actually did this stuff in the street. We didn't get any of these rights by voting. It all came from the people that were willing to put foot to butt in the streets to get things popping. The same thing that got us out of bondage. But our parents will have you believe that we can just vote our way into liberation. And that's why my only point is not to beat them up, is you can't listen to them. They've been indoctrinated. They have no idea what's going on. And they don't want to know.
Gotcha. I guess love fair. Who hasn't spoken? A Black. I love to call on you. I'm sure you're listening to the conversation. What's your thoughts so far? Where we're at?
Okay. So where were we again?
Trey, I'll let you tell us exactly where we was at.
I was just talking about how the former generation is really not thanks to them. That we have what we have now. The previous generation before them was, they were the ones that stood on a lot of these morals and principles, and they had this revolutionary valor. They had, and if we can't really listen to the generation, our parents' generation, because they just believe that we can vote blue our way into liberation. So, not to beat them up or anything.
Yeah, I partially agree. I feel like every generation strive for what we don't have, in hopes of thinking it's gonna, make our situations better. And so each generation, one might get freedom, one might get integration, one might get voting, one might get student loan forgiveness. Each are kind of like each generation is offered these things of like, we don't have this. If we fight for this, we're going to be free. We're going to have everything we need. And then they kind of get to this next level, but still not really. So, I mean, I won't say they failed us. I just feel like the things that they focused on or were trained to focus on, might not have been everything we needed to benefit us. So, I mean,
that's a nice way to put it. But he said the same thing. That's failing us, bro.
The day got way more opportunity than they do, and it is because of some of their struggles and the things that they had to put up with that we did have it, that they did face the racism and stuff that we don't face as strongly. It's still there for sure, but it's not as strongly and as blatant as what they went through.
How did they have more opportunity? How did we have more opportunity than them when they had wages that were more in line with like the cost of houses? They could buy a house for like $10,000. They got pensions to retire with. They didn't have all this competition with immigrants.
You have to adjust like the cost for like inflation.
White people, hey Trey, white people fail for that same trick though. Like that's how they tricked a lot of white people from like the upper middle class into like lower middle classes. Like, so we not the only ones that fell for that.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, how did they have it easier? I mean, how do we have it easier for them when, like, I get what you're saying. I know there is inflation, but I'm talking about the ratio for the wages versus the cost of things was still like more affordable than they are now.
But
like,
Trey, but you black people own shit and they devalue the property. Even when black people did like all the right shit, we sit up here and talk about how they went and literally like sabotaged all of that shit. So like, how can we like acknowledge that shit week and then the next week we sit and just totally forget about like how much they sabotaged this generation that we talking about, even when they did the right shit.
They voted for their own sabotage.
So
not back in the day. No, that modernly, yes, but back in the day, because
they've been voting Democrat since Lyndon B. Johnson, bro.
But they switched at one point because they were voting because the Democrats, especially in the South, the Democrats were the racist ones, the Dixiecrats, and you talk about George Wallace and all. They weren't voting for Democrats when like Trump, Thurman, and all of them. They weren't voting for Democrats back then.
It's before Lyndon B. Johnson. I said they've been voting for them since Lyndon B. Johnson.
So fellas, I guess let me pose a new transitional question per se. I guess I'll ask this. The generational divide, this conversation that we're having, where we're pointing the blame at a specific generation. Is this a new way to spark division and infighting and not accomplish anything? Or is this a necessary conversation that needs to be had?
Bro, all problems need to be discussed, bro. We can't shy away from just, looking back on our issues. If y'all are willing to listen to Candace Owens and say she has a point, y'all should be willing to listen to my perspective when I'm talking about a lot of like some issues with that from the Vote Blue No Matter Who crowd, who are very destructive.
That was a shot, wasn't it, Trey?
I mean, no, it's just
I heard that.
No, I'm just saying, like, what do you mean? Is it just a way to divide, bro? If we have a problem, then we need to address it. That's the same thing that y'all say about Candace Owens.
But I do agree with that. But I think there's a way to address issues, and there's a way to go about like constructive criticism versus just criticism. And like if you're talking about progression, like but Trey, we could see like when you come in, like the chat go crazy because like the delivery isn't right. And like if you're talking with closed-minded people, having fucked up delivery is not going to open their mind. Like, and I'm in sales. I'm in sales. Like I'm in sales. So like
I don't think you said that right.
You say what?
No, go ahead. Keep going, Johnny.
But I'm saying, but your delivery, like if you have a goal, like if I'm trying to like if my goal is to get you to drink water, like if I'm leading the horse to water and my goal is to get him to drink, sitting up there and yelling at the horse and telling him he is stupid and because he ain't drinking and he gonna die, it's probably not gonna work. But eventually you have to figure out a better way to communicate and solve the issue. Like, and if our issue is we have a disassociation in our values and how we vote, solving that issue by sitting and pointing at the older generation.
So Johnny, I guess reframing the question and just allowing you to answer it. It sounded like you was leaning two away, but I'll just allow you to kind of answer it. Is this a new way to spark division and infighting, or is it a necessary conversation?
It's a necessary conversation, but we have to be careful because it could lead to division. But you have to have tough conversations. You always have to have tough conversations, but there's a strategy to that always.
Okay, G.
Now, honestly, I think there's always been division, at least from our generation to prior. Like, we grew up with hip hop and it's, my mom's wasn't down with none of the shit I was trying to get into as a kid, like the music, the clothes, the slang, just everything. It was like there's the generational divide is not new, is what I'll say. So I'll say that it is a necessary conversation because I think there's a clear disconnect, and the disconnect has been there for a few decades even.
But I guess what I'm hearing you describe is kind of like the generational divide of like youth and like elders in comparison to like the generational divide that's being spoken about like today, where there's like a blaming of why we're here today. Do you see how like those can be looked at differently?
Yeah, we
because every generation, there's not been a generation since 19 whatever you want to start it at that doesn't rebel against their parents, because that's what youth does.
Somewhat, right? It's like if you look at the common ground that a millennial parent might have with their kid who's growing up on a tablet versus the common ground, say, we had with our parents' generation, like it's a shorter gap, in my opinion. It didn't get wider.
I agree, but I think the world got flatter as well. Where our parents' generation, depending on how old your parents is, hopefully everybody understands what I mean by like the world got flatter. Just the internet, and not saying that the world's literally flat, but the internet has made things pretty much like flat communication. But damn, me explaining that kind of made me lose my train of thought.
No, but yeah, I agree with the overall point that like you talk about in terms of like who's to blame what. Like,
yeah, like that seems like a newer conversation in comparison to like, all right, so there we goes. So you were saying how the gap of like commonalities has shortened comparison to like millennials and their kids, even in like comparison to like our generation and theirs, but there was like a
more than commonality. Acceptance, like it's one thing to have it in common, it's another to like give your kids room to be expressive and embrace like different things. So I think we're more accepting of the younger generation than our older generation was of us. In terms of the other side of what you're saying, in terms of like, are we divided on who's to blame? I think it's a necessary conversation because in large part because of that disconnect that's been there since we got here. It's like they see us as these super predators, thugging, like they're so big on like that was one thing that was the biggest pet peeve of mine, is that the older generation is so big on appearance. Gotta look a certain way, dress a certain way, so big on like making sure you speak a certain way. Like you had to really like dress the part, if you will. Like, back in the day, niggas just wore suits on Saturdays. You know what I'm saying? Like wore khakis around the house with their shirt tucked in and a belt. Like
could I guess this would be something that I'll ask you to that point. I do understand that, but I guess that to me sounds like every generation to the next generation. Like I don't know a generation where the parents didn't think the kids' music sucked, to where they didn't think that the youth was the worst version. If you remember, like
this current
right
generation
now,
isn't like that, in my opinion.
I'm like literally every week we kind of have conversations about how this is the worst generation. I used to be like, it's not, but that's the same exact thing that like our generation is now starting that rhetoric, but that's the same rhetoric that our parents said about our generation, and then their parents said that about the crack era, and they did the whole super predator shit. And the generation before that was like the beginning of like the 70s and the disco shit, and they said the same thing about them.
The only
like,
difference,
I can't think of a generation before 1965, 67, 68 in which the parents were like explicitly happy about what the youth were doing.
To me, this the first time where parents and kids like wear the same clothes.
They don't.
I think parents and kids like they wear the same sneakers, t-shirts, jeans.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I think, but to me, like that's the cultural thing where I think the world just is like it's a little flatter. But I'm also say don't nobody on here dress like kids. Like what my son be wearing, but
if you go to a high school, you
mm-hmm.
don't think what you wear would be in trend with what?
Oh no, I stick out like sore thumb. Like but that's because we're delusional old niggas now. Like we think that we be looking cool. We look nothing like what they look like. I'm telling you. And my son and all this, like they can point it out and do the whole little thing. But like, and I see what like they wear. I like my son wears sports, so I go to the games. I see what all the kids is wearing. Shoe wise, we don't even wear the same shoes as them for real. Like they are fairly counterculture. Like right now, the big flare shits is big. The little cut, like almost, it looked like boxy cutoff tees almost at the hip.
I see grown men wearing crop tops. No.
You know somebody 35 and up wearing crop tops?
Yes, on the regular. Like that's a fact. Like that's a fact, bro.
Who?
This is what I'm saying. It's all over, bro. Like, I know it's in Charlotte. If it's in Durham, like, don't even try to play like that's not the case, bro.
I'm sorry, I don't see that at all. Like I see boxy tees and maybe like the screen prints, like what you have. I ain't seen no grown.
Do you know how many high school kids are wearing quote unquote designer now versus like they're wearing like the same types of like edgy cut design clothing in high school that I see people our age wearing the same style of stuff. At least I see it.
We're getting into a side tangent conversation. But you're gonna have to start sending me some people our age that's dressing like these kids. Because I think that they should be pointed at and shamed. But like, there's no reason that you should have bell bottoms and a cutoff tee at the belly button. And if you are wearing that, I think that there's a problem.
I agree. But like you said, like the pants where they kind of open up at the legs now and shit like that. Yeah, grown men are wearing those, bro. No question.
And by grown, are you talking about like people in the 20s?
Our age, 30s, no question. 30s, no question.
Trey, you and your friends wearing that too?
Nah.
I know I see it. I'm just telling you, no question. I see it. I see it all the time.
I mean, they might get some from H&M.
No, but H&M don't have that. Like that. Those are old nigga clothes. Like kids don't shop at H&M. Like those are like the old trendy clothes. We be shopping at all the old spots for real.
Yeah, if my homie got a crop top,
I tend to shop at like Banana Republic and places like that. Like I don't
like
really.
The kids they clown on the graphic tees now too. Like they off so much stuff that we think that look like what the kids look like, and that's the only thing that I'm.
Hold on, you can't wear a graphic tee no more.
You can if you're an adult, but like the kids ain't really like they're pointing at that a little bit.
What about Yeezy Gear?
Like hold on, like you talking about a graphic tee with like a clean pair of fit, like a clean pair of pants. Like you can't that ain't it no more for the kids.
All I'm saying is like they cuts and what they do with it is way different. And the kid, like from what I've seen, like the graphic t-shirt. That's not
our
like
generation start wearing short. Like we didn't grow up wearing shorts above the knees, but that's where niggas wear their shorts now.
Yeah, I do.
I wear shorts above my
Hey,
knees.
But
I've always kind of worn
but when
my
we was
Hey,
growing up, that
hey,
was
hey, we know-
unacceptable. That was
hey,
completely unacceptable.
I
That's
blame
like the young kids
LSU.
brought that stuff up. Like I'm telling you, niggas are
blame-
dressing more like the kids than ever.
But I think, but that's where you got to mess. Like the kids don't wear short shorts now.
Yeah, they do.
No, they wear big baggy jeans right now.
But if they wear shorts, they wear short shorts.
So
No,
like
they don't. I'm telling you,
kids-
like I'm looking at the kids. I see all the kids.
But look
the
at what-
kids
so
now
the
wear
kids-
like 2000. They look like 2004.
But Q, when kids are hooping, do their
With a crop
shorts look
top
like
tee.
do their shorts look like Jordan back in the day, or do they look like Stockton back in the day when they hooping today?
Hey, G, we're grown.
Oh,
I think what he's saying
do they look like Jordan?
Do they look like the Jordan
no.
shorts, the baggy
So I
shorts,
think
or do
that-
they wear the John Stocktons?
No, and I got you. So I'll run.
Hey,
I
Q,
can
I
speak
hop
to
in-
this too.
hey, Q, can I hop
So
in
right
there?
now, kids aren't wearing. Right now, the kids aren't wearing like the higher things. That was like 2017 through like 2021 ish. Like they're kind of like middle-ish. They're not wearing the baggy Jones. I don't know if the baggy Jones are going to ever come back in for like basketball. But there was an era where they got really, really, really high. They're not there anymore. Like they've dropped a little bit.
This must be like a year ago they dropped. Pause, because I swear.
Just go to the high school games. I be at like high school games 20 times a year. Johnny, we can't hear.
Johnny,
I can't
you
hear
froze. You
You
choppy.
talking and froze.
You in the
Y'all
matrix.
can hear me? Y'all can hear me?
No, you are stuck in the
digitized.
matrix. But my bad. We've definitely derailed this conversation.
Yeah, man, I ain't get to answer the
What
question.
spot
about
were we
identity
just talking
drama,
shit?
bro.
But
Yeah,
you said what?
I didn't get it because y'all were talking about is it something that is just a way to like cause more division, and then like it seems like we have the same. I have the same answer every week, bro. You can't unite with everyone. Uniting with people who are off code like sets you back. And I think I've had enough conversations. Like during the pandemic is when I said I'm not talking to these old heads no more, because I was like I don't want this vaccine, bro. Like it's not tested. I don't need it. I already had COVID. I'm not getting the jab, and they were emotionally invested. And then like I was like, they was like, damn, they're about to cry because I didn't want to get the vaccine after I already had COVID, bro. And I didn't get it and everything's okay. So after that, it's like I saw how they acted on that. Like there's no talking to the old heads. So I don't think that I'm talking to y'all right now. Notice in the chat, there's a lot of older people who are upset with me. I don't mean to disrespect them, but I would never have this conversation with them. So when you talk about there's a better way to say it, there's no nice. They just are arrogant. They just know that they're right. They're not open to another perspective.
Trey, do you believe that you're right?
Bro, I know I'm right. Because
explain to me how that's any different than them.
Because my
you don't see how you said you described them as knowing that they're right, but then you said that you know that you're right.
Because I'm going based off of logic. They're going off of emotion. Gotcha. With the logically, it makes absolutely zero sense to vote for somebody who's not going to do anything for you. Who says I'm not going to do something only help black people? No, you're going to go be the main group of people who are voting for her. That's illogical. So I know I'm right there.
I think the main group of people voting for her though will be black women or women in general. Like, I don't think it's going to be a generational. I think women are going to carry Kamala home this election.
Bro, the group people going to vote for her are the elderly black people, the boule, LGBTQ, immigrants, and feminists. Those are the only black people I talk to that are voting for her. Like, hope full sale.
Hold on, my bad. Say that again.
The only black people who are staunch Kamala Harris supporters are the elderly black people, boule, like Greek, LGBTQ, immigrants, and feminists.
So basically everybody but black men.
No, not all women are feminists.
So you don't think the average black woman isn't a huge Kamala supporter? You don't think that's like her foundational base, the average black woman?
I've seen a lot of black women who aren't feminists or aren't Greek speak out about Kamala, her not being
a lot.
black.
You've seen a lot of them.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
But a lot could be 3%, and that be 1,000.
Bro,
like,
you know good and
what
well,
is a lot?
black, like I saw a stat that like the biggest percentage of new registered voters are young black women. That's the biggest new block of registered voters.
Democrat voters or just voters?
Registered voters, period.
So I don't know.
You know why? You know who they voting for. These young women ain't registering to vote for Trump.
So, fellas, let me I guess move the conversation forward a little bit. So I guess I'll ask this. Are we the we would have generation? Where it could be easy to say what we would have done or what we should do or what they should do. But when faced with the information and ability to organize as we have now, even in similar circumstances, what do we have to, like say and prove that we would have did anything other, anything different, or anything better? Are we, in essence, what did they call it? Monday morning quarterbacking it?
Again, I don't blame them, bro. Like I just think that
but the question now is the accountability on us. Are we the we would have generation?
No, I'm not saying. I think if we were in the same position that they were in, we would think the same way that they do. And like you said, we have access to a lot more information to where we can Monday morning quarterback. So now we need to course correct. So,
but what I'm asking you is, what makes you think that our generation will change? What's or be any different than that today with everything that we have now?
Well, podcasts like this, where they didn't really have panels and open discussions. Well, I've never seen this many people on channels question the Democratic Party. It was pretty taboo when I was like in elementary school and middle school to even say anything about outside of just voting blue. And then now I'm seeing plenty of people have these discussions. You even have like your Umar Johnson and Tariq Nasheed. You have prominent voices like Ice Cube. Man, that's just off the top of my head.
Gotcha. But I guess so when we go past like the conversation and action. So the previous generation can say that they have actually laid action and can say that they accomplished through different means a bunch of different things.
What did they accomplish?
Do you think which one you want to go with, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X?
I'm talking.
And do you think nothing that they did previously was of anything?
In between, there was a vacuum between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and those people, and then us.
And so you think that like from 1980 to now is kind of like a vacuum, and even though those exact same people still were in power and they voted during the entire. All right.
No,
okay.
But I'm telling you, they got assassinated. The people you're
saying from the 70s, basically like starting in the 70s, moving forward
to present day. Yes, they haven't accomplished a damn thing.
But those are the people that were voting. Those same people that were marching are the ones that had the biggest voting block in the black community.
But we didn't get anything from voting
inside the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Like so 30 to 54 is the biggest voting block, and they would have been inside that age demographic during that time. So, and that's why I say, like, you would be saying the people that did the most change did the worst change as well.
The people marching with MLK in 64, they were what, like 30, 40?
No, those were college kids.
So a lot of them were college kids, right? So that generation, what, like into the 70s?
So they would have been 30, 40, 50 during the 70s, 80s, 90s.
They wouldn't have been 30. The people that were in college were in the 65. In the 70s, they would have been in their 40s. So
no,
80s, they would have been.
When you're in college, you're 21 at most, 22.
I got you.
So in the 70s, you would have been 30. In the 80s, you would have been 40. In the 90s, you would have been 50.
Yeah. So the people that were marching.
That was our biggest voting block.
You're basically talking about boomers.
The people that were marching with MLK. The leaders were assassinated. And then when you strike the shepherd, the sheep will scatter. So I think that when MLK and Huey Newton and Martin Luther King, and when all those people were in the Black Pants, when all those people were in leadership positions before COINTELPRO, I think they had the more of the masses in mind. But I think as soon as Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all them took the helm, that's when that same generation that I'm big upping, the ones that were part of that, that's when they went astray. And then they went and they thought, okay, well, Martin Luther King died so we could go sit to the table with white folks. When in reality, on his last, before they assassinated him, he said he was going to get the check. He was going to get reparations. But they didn't keep that fight alive. They kept the integration fight alive instead.
So I guess what would be your biggest issue with the 70s, 80s, and 90s people? Because it sounds like your whole entire complaint would be the boomer generation that marched with Martin Luther King, but then voted for, say, the crime bill. But you're saying like everything else is in a vacuum, but I guess I'm trying to understand, because the people that you give credit are the same people that you're demonizing.
But I just said.
But then you said that the generations after 70, 80, 90 are in a vacuum and they don't count.
I mean, I was just saying that after they assassinated the leadership of that generation, that's when they dropped the agenda and just like kind of abandoned the plan that you're giving them credit for. So yes, they were.
And I'm giving who credit for what?
You're giving the people that you're saying that I'm giving credit for, but also condemning at the same time. I'm saying that I'm giving them credit for when they were under the leadership of our.
Okay, so in general, like our best generation and worst generation was just pretty much pawns for whoever the leader was.
No, I wouldn't even say MLK was the best generation. I would say MLK on back before him. Everyone before MLK was part of the greater generation. But after MLK died, the people that were good, they fell off. And then they birthed people that were even worse. And then now we're like, Malcolm X wasn't looked at as a hero until
hey, Collins, we're gonna get to you in a second.
Until Spike Lee made that movie. Because they looked at him as kind of like a troublemaker a lot of times.
Hop into the conversation. I guess are we would have generation? Is it easy to Monday morning quarterback and say what we would have done? But
to some degree, yeah, because we don't live in the environment that they lived in at the time. Like we don't face the level of scrutiny. Just the like again, like
when faced with similar like some versions of similar scrutiny, do you think that we did anywhere near as much? So I guess, well, I'll let you answer that.
Nah, I don't think so. It's tough to say because I feel like we haven't done, like when you look at policy, we haven't, like what policies can our generation like put our stamp on? And that's like an honest question. Like what are the landmark policies that we get to say like this was the thing we did? You know, the other generation can say like they got the Civil Rights Act passed, and people can argue about the Civil Rights Act and so forth, but it's a landmark policy, if you will. I don't know what landmark policies were created in our generation. I would like to just, like, if somebody has like what they think is like a landmark policy created from people that were born when we were born, but I don't know if we've, I think we've dropped the ball in that regard. Our generation is not as politically in tune as the older generation, is what I'll say for sure.
But which generation are you talking about though? When you say our generation, what time have we had?
Millennial. I'm talking about the millennial. I mean, look, we are like Tupac. How old was Tupac when he died? 27.
I want to say
27. Yeah.
So how old was Fred Hampton? How old was Stokely Carmichael?
21.
Like we've had a lot of time, my nigga. Like we are a generation of millennials. Like if I just look at this thing, the last millennial, the youngest millennial is born in 96. You know what I'm saying? 81 to 96.
Like most millennials is 40s and late 30s. Like we're in the middle of the biggest voting block right now.
Yeah. So I do
And
think
we're reversing course, right?
I don't know if we were reversing course.
And that's where the question is.
But I'm saying, what accomplishments would you give our parents? Because they're not the people that got civil rights.
So again, maybe not our parents' generation, the baby boom generation, but like I said, I said from the beginning, the silent generation.
I know what I would give our parents, to be honest. They did the course correction of the crack era.
No, they are the crackheads. Respectfully, respectfully.
So listen to me.
Respectfully.
No, I got you. I understand what you're saying. But understand, they were the 20-year-olds during the late 80s and 90s, right? So they grew up in the crack era. When did the crack era turn itself around? Like, if we're talking about who was inside their 30s, 35, 40, and actually made the push down. If we just look at crime stats, the peak of crime of like, let's just go crime in the black community was 87 through like 94, 95, right? And it started doing this downward. What group of black people would have been? What group of black people, just making the assumption, would have been the voting bloc and the people that was actually pushing the policies that could have quote unquote changed, or raising the kids that ended up being the ones that.
So the issue with that, my issue with that is that these are the people who instituted the crime bill. If we go by that logic,
but that would be the civil rights era.
No. The baby boomers, if we go by the voting bloc in the 90s, this is that group of people who were calling us super predators.
That would have been the civil rights era. Those are the boomers. So understand. So in the the 1990s, what you're saying, they were the crackheads. Those were the kids, the teens, and the college kids.
They were
growing up during that time. And during that time, it was shit. And even if we can talk about the super predator conversation a little bit later, because even that conversation has its own context, right? But
I'm just talking about the voting bloc,
like 2000s and 2000, like the 2000s. What generation would have been the biggest voting bloc during that time?
In the 2000s, from 2000,
it would have been our parents' generation, right?
I don't know how old parents are. Some of y'all parents might be Generation X. Mine wasn't.
Mine is my parents are over 60.
A lot of boomers too.
Yeah, so I would say Generation X though is the one that kind of gets not talked about because they're in between boomers and millennials. Generation X is from
those the kids that was like 99 and shit.
Generation X is from 65 to 80. So that means you were born from 65 to 80. So that means if you were born in 1970, by the time 1990 got here, you were 20 in college. And then
so I guess for me, that's my parents' generation. Like the 60-year-olds right now are that generation.
Generation X?
Yeah. What you just described with like 65 to 80, that's my parents' generation.
So this is probably one of the generations that kind of gets swept over, that has had one of the more negative impacts on our generation, in my opinion, overall.
But I would ask this question. If this is the same generation that we're talking about, that if we're saying 2000s, 2001s, like they was the ones raising us, correct? If markedly the crime rate decreased, income increased during this time, how were they the ones that did the worst?
So I can. So there's a book
and they impacted us, especially if we're saying that our generation today is the generation that we would rather have been born into.
So what I'm saying is that, like, to answer your question, one, there's a book called Freakonomics that talks about why crime rates drop. And surprisingly enough, it points to the fact that abortions became widely legal. And according to Freakonomics, which is an interesting book that looks at stuff from a data-driven perspective, the number one variable that determines if someone is a criminal is their mother's education level. Right. And what ended up happening, this is according to data. So this is according to the authors. This is not my personal opinion.
I imagine 2-parent household would be right there on par with that. Is correct as well.
I'm talking
socioeconomic income as well.
Because like if you're doing an analysis, you have like different variables, so you can't like look at like. But I'm talking about the variable that impacted the likelihood of someone being a criminal the most, according to this book, was your mother's education level.
Okay.
And one of the things they pointed out in the study was how crime rates dropped, not so much because police was doing so great. It was literally because population started shrinking. And so they weren't locking up as many people because people weren't having as many babies. Like it was a literal, like, this is like, and y'all can look at it. It's called Freakonomics. This ain't even.
I understand what you're saying, but that impact wouldn't come until 20 years later, or at least like 15 to 17 years later. Are you saying that that's a policy that was started in like the 70s or something like that?
Exactly. Correct. Correct.
But then how would that have like erased everybody? Like during the 90s, did they just like disappear and that crime just went away? I guess I'll do more research to go. But hey, fellas, welcome to the panel. We have Kofi, we have Kamu, live from South Africa. Hop in, Kofi. It looked like you had a commentary.
Yeah, like, I mean, that sounds like an interesting book that G was talking about. But to my understanding, oh man, my father-in-law gave me a book, and it really explained what criminality is in the United States and how the United States makes money off of criminality, as far as talking about prisons and industrial complex. But everyone knows that criminality and economics have direct correlations. Everyone knows that a poor community, right, is going to be more susceptible to do crime because people got to eat. That's the reason why you don't see LeBron James and Oprah Winfrey doing credit card scams and robbing 7-Elevens, because you don't have to. If you are able to make a decent living on your own, you're not going to compromise what you have. But when you got nothing to lose, hey, I'm going to do the crime because, hey, I got to eat too. So I understand. I mean, there's other factors involved, but I think Q, you did mention that has to do with economics. But again, even if you have a one-parent household, if you don't have a need, there's no reason for you to do crime. I have a homeboy. He's like your guy's age. He did some time, and he said, yo, I got my GED when I was locked up, and they had this dude I was locked up with. Yo, this dude was like a genius at everything. He was passing everything in flying colors. I'm like, he's like, yo, why are you in here? He's like, bro, you know what I'm saying? I learned my lesson. Like, what do you mean? He's like, yo, I was, his mother was a lawyer and the father's like an engineer or something like that. And he was like, so why you end up in here? Because what you in here for? Selling drugs and doing dumb shit. He's like, yo, I just wanted to be cool. I just want to be with the cool kids. I was just that lame kid, you know what I'm saying, that just got good grades. That shit was lame to me back then when I was growing up. So he did the knuckleheaded shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I heard, like, same thing with GthaKing. GthaKing, I heard his parents, you know what I'm saying, they're like doctors or lawyers or something, but look what he doing. He talking about
because they was living in the hood. They was living in the hood. Even though they was doctors and lawyers, they lived in a very low income neighborhood in Yonkers.
Oh, okay. I thought his parents just, they're good and he just came out. I didn't know that. But I mean, as far as my homeboy, there's some people that's, they're like, I just want to be cool. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this. Like, and I'm an open book. My younger brother is like you guys' age too. And he almost, he started doing the dumb shit too. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Why?
So I guess to bring it back in, you're attributing the dumb shit to what?
Well, no, I'm saying it's sometimes it's not just like you said, there's a lot of variables as why people commit crimes. And the first thing I said, it has to do with income. And also it could be with probably like maybe a 1-2 parent home, but there's also things that some kids just do stupid shit.
Oh, for sure. To me, I think the easiest way that I like to sum it up is that, like, you could usually trend things on socioeconomics, not race, not any of those other things. Socioeconomics, you can usually kind of like trend crime or many other things along that.
Yeah.
Kamu, talk to us.
First time I agree with Kofi.
Yeah. I think he's on point when he says like the previous generations, not specifically the one that came before us, we give them a pass.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, I see that, to be honest, this generation is like the weakest like generation ever and the most entitled generation ever. But that is basically purely because of the previous generation didn't do what it was supposed to do. You understand that they had big challenges, but most of them they didn't even try. So like for us, it's like you have nothing to work on. You have to lay a foundation, which is really really unfair. And Man, I think the one that comes after millenniums, it's what it's the
Z.
They are even worse. It's a shame, bro. It really is a shame. So yeah.
Okay, so when you say this current generation, you're talking about us in essence, right? And when you, I guess, and Z would be like the next generation. Is that how you was framing it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, so us, bro, like, we have no policy to show for. We have nothing. I mean, even look at the Dr. King era generation. They had Shellishism, and look at this generation. You have Kamala Harris. Like, bro, it's insane. It really is insane.
Can I make a comment about the generational thing?
Real quick, let me get TBI in real quick, and then we'll we can round on it. TBI, talk to us.
Hey, brothers, appreciate y'all putting the show on.
Yes, sir.
I would say the generations before us, they kind of did fail, like our parents and kind of like grandparents, but I think it was riders within, like maybe our grandparents' generation. But I think what happened is like our parents, some of our grandparents got comfortable with like working in these corporate positions, and they kind of like made them a little bit more docile with like the opportunities. And so it's like the previous generation, like Malcolm X, MLK, they were fighting for opportunities. And it was like, and then when we integrated, it kind of made a lot of the group docile. It's like, man, I'm getting mine. I'm not really worried about the next generation. It's like they kind of, if you look at other groups like Asians, even Caucasian people, they kind of plan for the future and worry about the next generations. I feel like our elders kind of didn't do that. It was like, hey, I got mine. You figure it out, young blood, and we kind of where we are now, and we're starting to speak up, even like things about points like reparations. Like now you're hearing this coming up in the election cycle. Back then, like these previous generations, you barely heard anything up because they weren't really pushing for that. So I think it is where we're picking up the mantle and trying to take it further than they did, because we're like, man, y'all really didn't really set us up. So now we got to take it in our own hands and kind of move from there.
The first step for all this stuff is we got to shake a lot of this indoctrination that we picked up from the previous generation. So if we stumbled out the gate, I think when you've been trained to do something in bad political strategy your whole life, you don't immediately jump out the gate with a different agenda. So I know we don't have a lot to show for it now, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Right.
For at least having these conversations.
Y'all don't think they had conversations about reparations in this?
No. I mean, they probably had them in like sparse little meetings, but now it's like they're mentioning it on CNN, and that we weren't hearing that in the previous election cycles. You didn't hear nothing about reparations.
But you can hardly get them to talk about it now, like on a one-on-one conversation. Like you bring up reparations, like reparations.
Yeah, they, like to me, I don't know. It's like we've been trying to get reparations like for a long time. This isn't like a new thing.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, it's always, you gonna always have groups that are like talking about it, but now it's like like the California reparations thing. That was like headline news. That was on Fox, CNN, like because people are actually pushing for it now. Like back then, we always been like, hey, let's have meetings about it. Let's talk about it. Let's meet. and then nothing would come of it. It would never get to that. It would never get far. Now it's getting further. The message is being boosted. Now it's like they can't ignore it because it's like we pushing it out a lot more than they did because they just like, I mean, yeah, it'd be good if we got reparations and that's cool, but they ain't gonna give it to us, so let's just vote anyway. And we're tired of that, man. We gotta really get something for voting. Like this generation's waking up to that. It's like we gotta really get something. It's not like, oh, they're not gonna do it anyway, so just vote. So you see what I'm saying? It's like it's a little bit. We have a different mindset. It's like we're actually asking for something. They would kind of like bring it up a little bit and then be like, don't worry about it. It'll come. We'll wait for the next president and bring it up to them. It's like, nah, we need to do it today.
So TBR, are you voting for a candidate in November?
I'm voting for a candidate that has a plan for Black people, specifically Foundation of Black American people. But if I don't see that, I don't think I'm going to vote because
have you seen that from either of the candidates yet?
I have not. Well, Kamala definitely. She told us she was not going to do nothing for us. Period. So it's really up to Trump. You see, like different people, like Tariq Nasheed. He's met with people from Trump's group and his party. So it's like they actually putting forth the effort. Like Kamala is just saying, no, I'm not doing that for y'all, but I'm gonna let a bunch of illegal immigrants in. So it's like it's really, we have to be more strategic with our vote. Like we're just voting because she's Black or she's supposed to be Black, and we have to like think deeper than that now. It's getting late in the day. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm looking for something tangible, and we basically been blindly giving our vote to the Democrats. And now it's like, hey, let's just not vote for nobody. Let the Democrats fall, and then it's going to be what it is. So.
Gotcha.
So TBI, in the 60s, they were fighting for civil rights, right? Do you equate your is it fighting for reparations for you in the same is it significantly that important that when you compare it to what they were fighting for in the 60s? I mean you have mass incarceration now you have miseducations of Black boys, you have gentrification, you have police brutality.
A lot of that stuff can be solved with finances, man. A lot of this can be solved with finances. That's why reparations is key. And then you even see MLK before he was assassinated, he started to move in that direction. It's like, we coming to get our check. He started to see like, hey, we need money. We need money to get. What's that?
That doesn't stop police brutality.
It is your primary.
No. We're not trying. Look, we're not trying to stop racism. We're just trying to get compensated for a debt that's owed. And we know this world runs on money. It runs on money. All other groups, when they brought these illegal immigrants over here, they gave them money. They gave them debit cards. They gave them housing. They gave them all that. They didn't say like, "Oh, y'all need some education vouchers and none of that stuff." We want money. That's what the world runs on.
Also,
are you familiar?
So-called
are you
First
familiar?
Nation.
Are you familiar with the term called economic stimulus package?
What? What package?
Economic stimulus package.
You keep breaking up.
Economic stimulus package. Are you familiar with the term?
Yes. What are you referring to specifically?
It's money directed to a group of people for a certain, agenda. It seems like you want reparations in a form of a stimulus package, and there's a difference between that. So I'd give you an example. Back in I think early 1900s, the Irish and the Italians were running the gangs, and the state government gave them a stimulus package in a form of police jobs and fire departments. That was a stimulus package. So it seems like right now you are misaligning what reparations really is. It's not money. America can't owe Black people money. There should be real tangible like land. You're not talking about land. You're not talking about waterways. You're not talking about ports. You're not talking about.
See,
can buy all that
I'm gonna cut you off. See, this is why Africa is in that state, man. Y'all,
You see, now it gets personal. You're talking over
no,
his head.
this is facts. This is facts. Africa is
What
in a
he's saying
state
is
where they're
fact.
not running it, bro.
What he's
Because
saying,
it's like
what he's saying has nothing to do with Africa. Why you gotta take a shot with him?
he's
Africa.
in Africa and telling me about something in America.
He's saying okay, but you're not. See, I'm not trying to insult you.
That's like me trying to tell him something about South Africa, bro.
If you want money, like okay, I ask people this question: Do you rather have $5 million or 50 acres of land? Fool always takes the money. The fool always takes the money. Right?
Well,
nigga, I can go get a lot of land. Bro. How much? I can get more than
that makes
that
no
many
sense,
acres.
bro. That's the logic, man.
Now you said 5 million. I was just counting in my brain.
Give me that millies. I'm gonna get my land from there, no question.
Exactly. So if you get good fertile land, right, or because see,
you can't do anything with land. You can if I give you acres of land and you don't have any money to develop it, you can't do anything with it.
Yes, but
I can take money and go buy land.
Money, and it's only U.S. money. You can only do things within the U.S. If I give you a commodity or something to trade, you can sell the land, develop the land, get investors and other people to invest in your land, so you can create a town or your own personal.
Kofi, let me ask you a question. Do they pay you? Do you have a job? Do you have a job in the U.S. or do you make money?
Yes, I create a town.
Do they? What do they pay you in?
I work for the United States. I work within the United States, so I get U.S. currency.
Why you don't ask them to pay you on land?
Because that's not how.
Bro, we're still fighting for land.
That's not how it works.
It's unlike.
In that case, just give me all your U.S. dollars, bro, and we'll figure out how to get you some land.
I'm not an indentured servant.
I'm simply.
I did not sign an agreement where I work for a certain amount of years and they give me land and a mule to plow the land. So what you're saying makes no sense.
But you were trying to say money was not valuable, really. So, but you get paid in money.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying one is more valuable than the other because the other one. I mean, you can flip money. We all know that, but having land, if you have a huge amounts of land, is worth more than the money you have. There's more potential in the land. That's why in the beginning we wanted 40 acres and a mule. We wanted a couple shillings.
Hey, hold on, real quick, fellas. So we're gonna kind of start winding down the conversation. We getting close to that time marker. But we'll kind of do the round robin. Where I'm gonna give everybody about a minute. I'm gonna just do a minute, just so we can everybody can actually make it through, and just give their ending conclusion on the topic of the day. G, we'll start with you. Should we blame previous generations for society today?
Yeah, man. I think if there's one key thing to blame that stands out to me is the generations that allowed the mass incarceration to spike starting in the 70s, going into the 80s, peaking into from the 90s to the 2000s. Whoever laid that foundation to allow those policies to target us in disproportionate ways, where we didn't have the resources to help protect us in different ways, and really like dismantled our families by locking up a lot of folks. That's where, in my opinion, the previous generation really dropped the ball. They locked a lot of us up, and we're still paying the cost of that. So that's my opinion on like where the previous generation really let us down. They should have did a better job of not putting us in jail.
Trey, minute. You muted, my boy.
My mic started too. Y'all hear me all right?
Yeah.
Man, again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not here to beat up on older people, but I do think we need to have a course correction. And I think a lot of them, they didn't keep the eye on the ball when right before MLK was assassinated. He said he's coming to get our check, and we need economic empowerment, because without economic empowerment, you're just a sitting duck in this world where, you know, cash rules everything around me. So I don't want to. The only reason I talk about the older generation is because I want us to understand that we can't just accept their advice, because they're in this cycle of vote blue, no matter who, just get along with the system and the illusion of inclusion, blackface in high places. They believe in black and brown and minorities and a bunch of foolishness, and they don't put black people first. And I challenge you to ask a lot of the older people, ask them if they are in favor of putting their Black American lineage first as a priority. And everyone I've asked so far, they've said no. And if they answer that question no, then there's really no need to have any additional conversation, because you're politically, you're misaligned, like foundationally different. And I've also asked people outside of our lineage if they're in favor of putting their lineage first, an Ethiopian guy, a white guy. I've asked them, and they said if they are in favor for policies that would only help their people. When I ask older black people, they wouldn't say yes. They're like black and brown. So that strategy is going to leave us at the bottom. So we must drop that. No offense to the older people, because a lot of them get emotionally attached to this and they feel like I'm attacking them, but I'm not attacking them for anything else other than to do better for their children. If that's my priority, then they need to, just get out the way. That's it.
Got you, Kofi.
They had it just reminded me of a conversation that Dr. Clark had. Someone asked him, "Hey, we need leaders. We need someone to do something. Where's our Malcolm X? Where's our Meg Evers and Fannie Lou Hamers?" And Dr. Clark said, "What did you do with the first one? What did you do after you had that one? You've done nothing." So I kind of agree with everybody. It's kind of like the next generation, because after the Civil Rights Act was implemented, you're supposed to keep that fight. And they didn't keep that momentum going. We kind of got, except for people like Stokely Carmichael and, Jesse Jackson, if you like him or hate him or whatever, you still had some people in the civil rights movement that would try to keep the momentum going. But I feel from what I see, the majority of us just got comfortable because you're like, okay, we've been to the mountaintop. So, there's a little bit blame to go around, but at the same time, that we cannot hold a candle to what they achieve. So what we need to do is continue their fight. When it comes to politics, to me, it always makes no sense to me. If it makes no sense, you have someone, that's neglectful. The Democratic Party is neglectful of black people and the black vote, but it is a very backwards, coonish house nigga mentality to run to the person who just hates you and vilifies you and doesn't even respect or acknowledge your humanity. Right. To me, as I always said, it's easier to put their feet to the fire because they say, "Oh, we care about you and we've done all these things to you." It's easier to put them, put their feet to the fire and then run up under literal white supremacy. So real quick, one example, when you had Kamala Harris.
Kofi, we on the minute clock right now.
All right, cool. But basically, I'm just gonna say, they should have held it assassin to the March on the Independence Bridge. They should have fight her, not that. So that's the weakness of the Democratic Party. That's it. Yeah.
Camus.
Yeah, man. For me personally, this generation is the weakest ever. No objectives.
And by generation, talking about us, right?
Millennials.
Yeah. Okay. No clear goals. No intentions to build anything. Just entitled and vague. So, but again, it wasn't because of our doing, it was because of the previous generations that set us for this failure. And if you continue with this trajectory, we're gonna set these young ones for even a bigger disaster. And it's quite frankly a shame. Ancestors are turning in their graves right now.
TBI, talk to us.
Yeah, I would say we definitely like Trey was saying, it's not to beat up on the older generation, but I think in certain cultures you have to call things out. They call things out like, "Hey, that was a fail. This didn't go right." I think sometimes in Black culture we try to pacify things and say them nicely, but it's like I think for us to move forward, we got to call it out like it is. It's like, "Hey, y'all did some good things. Y'all had some y'all had some riders, but y'all also dropped the ball in a lot of areas that could have set us up going forward." So I think it like how y'all talk about accountability. I think that's a key thing we have to have as far as the older generations as well. Because if you look at, like I say, other groups, they consider future generations. Like, I feel like we got to do it better about, like, even our generation. Like, sometimes we like, hey, I'm good. I mean, I got a nice job, nice house, but it's like, it's bigger than that. We got to think like generations down the line. I think that's where we drop the ball, where we just like, hey, it's better for me. I don't know what it's going to look like later on, but I'm good. And so I think our older generation's doing that, and that's starting to even creep up with our generation as well. So we just got to look for the future.
Got it. And I guess before we get out, did start a poll on the show, and I asked, has the previous generation failed us? Here's the poll results. 57% said no. They haven't. 43% said yes. Nonetheless, I think that this is a fruitful conversation. I think that no matter how you feel about the conversation, I do believe that it is fruitful to kind of talk about where our differences are and where they lie at, and hopefully inside a space for cohesion for the future. But nonetheless, this has been the conversation, at least the part one of the generational divide. This is the To Be Fair show presented by, this is not the To Be Fair show. This is Unpacked presented by the To Be Fair show and G-ish podcast. And like